All right, it is indeed a very, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It is the 28th of April 2023, tarehe 28 mwezi wa 4 mwaka 2023. Natumai kwamba uko salama, umeamka vizuri. The Sheria Wiki Hii, Sheria Wiki edition of the 28th of April 2023. It begins right now. Kama kawaida, tuna daktari Ekuru Aukot na pia tuko na mgeni Gigi, Mheshimiwa Gigi kutoka pale Gatundu South. We'll be having a conversation this morning about the happenings that have been happening this week, of course, on the political scene and also on the legal world. We try to give every single happening a legal perspective of things. For instance, the biggest question this week has been, is Mackenzie legally culpable for the deaths of the members that have been that have continued to be exhumed from mass graves in Kilifi? There has been also the happenings on the political scene. We saw President Uhuru Kenyatta trying to reclaim Jubilee Party. What are the legal implications? Because the case is out at the ORPP. Pia mambo ni mengi, mambo inazidi kuchamka. Gigi pia has been insisting that local schools must be utilized by local students. Well, he'll take us through that. And the 1 shilling, 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote conversation has come back as well to the fray. So we're back with the conversation this morning. As usual, when you join in, please like. When you like, we get to know that you're watching us. And that like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. When you join in, please like. When you like, we get to know that you're watching us. And that like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. This is a tackle, the Sheria Wiki edition of the 28th of April 2023. And it begins now. Lakini kama kawaida, tuende mbele za Mungu tuombe. Tukirudi basi. Najua ni vipi, lakini daktari, sijui kama daktari alibadilisha msimamo ya
maombi ya shakahola. Because hiyo maombi ndio naona imeleta shida kubwa.
Tuangalie sana.
Usituambie kama Pastor Mackenzie. Sababu kina Mackenzie wako wengi sana siku hizi.
Biblia inasema katika kitabu cha Warumi ya kwamba we have all fallen short of glory. All of us.
I think it's the end of the world. You can see many fake prophets. Doesn't the Bible say something like
during end times
they will come in the numbers?
Prophets. Yes, these ones who are lying. But they, for example, I've always asked myself, they try, like Pastor Awor, for example, Dr. Awor. This man could be useful to the world, to the country, if he practiced his what he studied for his PhD.
Yeah.
Not, he's professional. He's a
scientist.
Neutro something that some very classy, high-tech
discipline.
Yeah, discipline. It could help the world than keep on and stop on telling people lies that is healing the viwete. Lakini kwa nini viwete tu peke yake wana nini? Mbona sijaona mtu mwenye blind
malaria. Malaria.
Ama mbona siombe Mungu mvue inyeshe wakati ile mang'ombe zetu.
Alisema aliomba, akasema the reason why joined it because alikuwa ameomba. Si alisema namna hiyo.
You know these things,
Anyway, ebu omba alafu tuangalie.
No, angalia.
Did you was saying something?
No. I think as a society we've also been very permissive. We've allowed nonsense to happen. And we allow it.
We have consumers.
We have consumers, and therefore, I mean, Guy realizes there's better market for religion than for his science. So he chooses to come the other side.
And his way out. You know? But you see, God can call you anywhere. You know, even tomorrow, God can decide to call Daktari Ekuru here. And he's a lawyer. He cannot stop being a lawyer. Anaanza tu kutuwekelea mikono straight away.
We'll need to look at the discipline to one. Kama pia either calling. It looks like there are many different types of calling.
But, for example, Mwesh, I've always wondered, especially I mean, I have nothing against them, especially the evangelicals. Why is noise part of their worshiping or praying? For example, when you put speakers so loud, even in a residential neighborhood, because me, I understand God is omnipresent. God can even hear very silent prayers.
Yeah.
You can even just make a wish to God. So why can't you pray quietly and silently? Why must you shout? And then, because I remember during I think Jesus' time when people spoke in tongues, so those around could hear their languages being spoken to. I have gone to a church where people say this funny things, but I can't hear anything as a Turkana speaker. I couldn't, because I thought that was the philosophy.
But you're not in the spirit.
That at least as they spoke in tongues, they were communicating
to someone because there are some Kuyus, and then they should speak some language that you understand.
Yes.
You know why they shout is because it's a contest to outwit each other, and they realized you want someone to move from this denomination to yours, and therefore it's a contest for the loudest. It's actually a cock dance. That noise is a cock dance. It's flexing the wings and showing who's better. Mine is better than yours. Mine is louder than yours. My speakers are good. It's a contest.
And Bitok, I know we have not prayed yet, but this issue of religion is very interesting.
You guys want to make now being a bishop.
Now we have this. It's just because I think just a society is being misled. Like now the Jesus of Tongaren. Jesus, I mean, come on. You're using the Bible to preach the word of Jesus, and you're claiming to be Jesus. And then they are just cows there, Nangombe, wanakusikiza.
No, but you see,
at he is Jesus.
We have been, like I said, we've been super massive because guy comes and says, first of all, we had Jehovah Wanyonyi,
yes,
who went to be with himself. Yes. After some time. Yeah. Then, and I don't know why that side of the world has a lot of Christ, Jesus. Jesus comes in many forms. And they all like Jehovah and Jesus. But I think even as a society, we have a responsibility to look at these guys and ask ourselves, who checks, who puts standards, But you see, religion is also, if you think about religion generally, it's because it gives answers to those things that have defeated us, to those things that have defeated
science. It explains the things that we cannot understand. It explains
the things that have defeated science and defeated logic and defeated everything, Then now, that's why...
in the context of Kenya, and going back to our history at independence, this lying and the failure of people to actually see logic and truth confirms one thing. We have not yet eradicated ignorance. Because if a majority of people are knowledgeable and able to see through, then they will not be wasting their time to go listen to these fake prophets or pastors who are just misleading them. And in fact, if you look at the Bible keenly, I mean, I'm not an avid reader of the Bible, but it's completely the opposite of what Jesus Christ was. Jesus Christ fed 5,000 people with only 2 loaves and whatever, bread. But today is the opposite. It is you, the multitude, the poor, who feed Jesus, quote unquote, is Jesus. So it's not even the Bible anymore. It's been commercialized business. Anyway.
All right, let's pray.
All right, Father, we come before you this morning. We worship you, glorify your name. Thank you for another opportunity to be alive. We thank you also for this conversation that you're about to have. We thank you for every tackler who's joining in. May you meet them at their point of individual needs. We pray, trusting and believing. Amen. Anyway, but I think again it speaks deeply into the liberties that we have. If you can have the liberty to become Jesus, I mean, we have a beautiful country.
Yeah, but you see,
become anything.
You see, first of all, my question is that first of all, I think legally we need to have a church ombudsman. We need to have a miracle registration center.
Miracle registration center.
Yes, we need,
when you perform
we need
a miracle
registration bureau so that you come and say. Now, first of all, as a government, when you even have people that are elected to represent people living with disabilities, then if you heal some people, there should be some synchronization between the society for people living with disabilities and the registration of the registrar of societies and a bureau that registers these miracles, so that you come and tell us now. You as a war, yesterday there were people who had reported to be disabled. Now I've healed them, and then we check. And when you come with this oil that you anoint people with, and then you bless their businesses, we also audit them, so that when you come, we see yesterday your turnover last year was this. Now we can relate this to this mafuta.
And it should reflect in KRA.
And when you first of all, this is slavery. If you look at the issues in Mombasa, this is mental slavery. And it's worse than even physical slavery, where guys were picked to go and do shamba work. Because at least even those guys who were picked knew that they are in slavery, they've been they are captives, and when they get a chance, you can run. The bad thing with mental slavery is that it affects the core faculty that is supposed to give you that knowledge that you are in prison. So you don't even know. I think it is a very grievous sin and offense. And we must make a law that if you claim to have performed miracles and we cannot see evidence of those miracles, because you see, you come and say that this guy was Kiwete, now he's walking. This guy was blind, now he's seeing. We must ascertain that. And if we find that it is not true, that is more than a capital offense. It should be treated as murder, because actually, by a permissiveness and failure to do something about it or to act on it, now see what we are getting into.
You know, I see it from two perspectives. One, that I think we're even giving these lies currency. We're giving it a lifeline. In my view, we should not even be discussing them. This should just be a matter of the DCI actually investigating these fellows and charging for misleading society. And the reason I say that is because in law there is what we call contributory negligence. Contributory negligence. Yeah. Criminal negligence, not contributory negligence. Criminal negligence. For example, if I see somebody is drowning in a pool and I'm just standing there and doing nothing, I've actually abetted. I should at least be seen to be doing something about it. Now, in the context of this religion, these people deliberately mislead poor members of the society and lie to them that they can do A, B, C, D to them, or tell them that if you kill yourself, you starve yourself to death. They are actually orchestrating the suffering of an individual that eventually leads to murder, to death. So, yes, I agree with Mwesh that this should be taken very, very seriously. But at the same time, if the police were vigilant enough, or the state actually was to regulate, because, yes, there is freedom of worship and religion, but also where now harm is caused to society and to individuals, then the state must step in. And say, fair enough.
Yes.
You have got freedom of religion. Go preach, go pray, have your own church if you so wish. But the moment it occasions harm and danger to society, then that's where the state must step in.
And
also the police, and also the police should stop being reactive. Because of Shakahola massacre, now I saw that Ezekiel Ogor was something
like that.
Yes, whoever. But you see, where were they before? Did they have to wait for Shakahola massacre to happen for them now to start investigating all these pastors? Pastor Nani has been lying to people. This Dr. Owor has been lying for the longest time that he can do this, he can do that, and they even give him escort. Have you seen the motorcade of that guy?
Yeah.
I mean, serious.
I think that's where government demeanor comes in.
The failure is not even on the part of government or of the police. There's no legal framework to regulate churches. We only have something. First of all, churches are registered under the Societies Act.
Yes.
Of 1968, that was reviewed, I think, in 1997 last. So the things that have happened, and at that time, the church was very conservative. And since 1997, a lot of things have happened, and a lot of these cons have come. So first of all, we need to register churches themselves. Then we need them to regulate themselves, so that we allow what is allowable. We say this is allowable. I mean, these miracles, and then you show evidence of those things that you do. I've seen some guys doing some practices that when you do sin, then you're chained in the church. You only give them food, but then you're chained in the church for so. Have you seen that video?
I've even seen another one where women were being canned.
Then I've seen, and then they're even very perverted guys. I saw another one trying to, shaving the pubic hair of women, and then it's just crazy. Another one, the things that, but you know, these are not churches.
I've seen pornography in church, in the name of worship, where the pastor must touch the women genitalia, but they are not touching.
There's another one in Nairobi.
They are not touching men.
There's a church which was called Breast and Annie.
I've seen another guy sitting on very high stool, literally on the high priest, and putting his leg on. You guys come, they bow, they put their heads on his foot on their hands, and then he washes his foot. Then they, they wash themselves with that water. Then now they're blessed. A lot of things.
There was this other one who was ascending to heaven, but you can see the ropes. He's being parachuted. This is just comical.
I remember seeing that guy. I saw it. He was telling his congregation that he has now left. He has gone to be
It's quite interesting. Tumesema ya kwamba guzeni kila mtu, lakini muziguze commander. Commander yeye ni content creator.
Yeah.
So muziguze commander. Pastor Nganga aziguzwe.
But
still
and he'll be coming for you, and if you listen to the things that guy says in church, that Nganga guy, then you look at the people who follow him, then you just realize, as Dr. put it, we have a very vulnerable society. And if you realize, I don't want to say this, it should not be very popular, but your guess is as good as mine. If you look at the gender parity within, or the gender mix in the churches, then it tells you something. And these guys go for very vulnerable people,
women.
And I agree with them. And I said it in Parliament when we discussed this Shakahola story. And I said, the first thing that we need to do is to make sure that our literacy levels are above what it is, because this is actual hypnosis. This is a guy this is not religion. This is hypnosis. How does someone convince you to sell your property that you have really earned as a crew, as an air crew, to sell, and now go starve yourself to death?
By the way, isn't witchcraft outlawed in this country?
But under what law? How do you regulate it? Because
I think witchcraft, especially if you cause harm to people using your mazingaombwe of witchcraft, but people have been arrested. So the same way I see these pastors actually there's something they administer to the congregation to mislead people, for example, to go and sell their property and bring it to them, and do the kind of things they do. I mean, you starve, you go to heaven.
How? And I will even in other religions, you've seen people kill in the name of, they will get some 72. Are they 72 or how many?
72 virgins.
72 virgins. First of all, why are you going to heaven to get virgins? You first of all deal with the virgins here.
Umemaliza wapi?
Sasa wewe.
Unajua hapa pia quality control inaharibika. Huwezi kuwa sure.
At least you can be sure about the virgins.
And you've been told that this has been set aside. There have been a quality control mechanism.
So you're saying he might be
kwa sababu hapo utahangaika sana. Ukisema utakuta hapa
utachapwa character development.
Utachoka kitabopata moja tayari. Georgian, keep up the good work. Good morning, Felix. Good morning, sir. Good morning to you, K. Patrick. Good morning, the religion in the world. Let's give it a break. For all religion, it's unbelievable and caste practices are done in democratic country without the authority of administration aware of so sad. The churches should be given a regulation and given the parliament to approve them. We can't live where we act as a religion, losing people, burying them like dogs. Anayanas in push is shocking. Jomo Kaimburi, Salimia Gigi is my former schoolmate at Queen of Apostles. He monologized me, watching from Perth.
Kariamburi, Jomo, he's in the US or something,
Australia.
Yeah, he's in Australia. He's my buddy.
Only monologize what?
No, hapana bana. Sasa huyo anaharibu maneno ya siasa hapa na anajua
mwambie on that note alete petition under chapter 6 leadership and integrity. Kama mheshimiwa Gigi tayari amefeli. Kama limeona Jomo, mimi niko tayari kukuwakilisha kwa hiyo
this thing is proving. Now Jomo first of all was from Nairobi. I was from the village. How do you monologize a guy from Nairobi bana?
But villager, unajua
Managers are tough.
It's very tough. Na kuna mbori mingi.
Unaweza kuwa ulikuwa mungiki bwana wakati ile.
Mtu wa sana la
kumguza hapa the timing. When was that? Because it could have been during the time
During the mungiki time. That were indoctrinated.
Joan Jerono, hello the tackle, my favorite show. The conductor Sante. Mabanjo Salim, keep up the good work. Thank you, Joan Jerono. Anasema sending. Abbas Njuguna anasema pokea upako. Tumepokea sana evangelist. Abbas Njuguna, Agnes Alimo, regulate the church only. Okay, we'll get back to that conversation, of course, on the church from a legal perspective. But before that, what is the feel on the state of the nation? The church.
To be honest with you, this week, I don't know. I think Mheshimiwa can relate. I don't know about you, but even you can relate to this. See, the moment you offer yourself for leadership of this country, for some strange reason, people believe you have so much money and that you're actually the solution to many of their problems. So this week I've had to reflect a lot based upon the number of requests I get from people. First of all, people call you Mheshimiwa. I've tried to tell them, I'm not a Mheshimiwa, I'm not elected. Why do you call me Mheshimiwa? Ati hapana najua ulisimama ni mtu. But the state of the nation is very sad, Bitok. People are asking for as little as 100 bob, 200 bob to buy unga. People are asking for, there's a lot of fundraising for hospital bills, school bills, food. Food is a big issue right now for many people. People will ask you for almost anything. Pesa ya gas, sujui nini. And when you look at it really from a state of the nation perspective, it's very sad. We are doing very badly because, and for me, that's the way I see the state of the economy of this country. From the individual perspective where people are actually telling you, I haven't eaten. I just need 200 bob to buy my children, food. So when people say that we're improving the economy, I think it's a lie. And I'm sure, and I'm happy that Mheshimiwa Gigi is here. He can also debunk for Kenya, for tacklers, some of these lies that is the government administration is related to. I know them, they cannot say it. But see, when the president says, the cost of unga itashuka wiki hii ati mvua ikinyesha, those lies, we should stop those lies. And I saw somebody the other day just serializing the lies that President William Ruto has been telling since 2013. In my view, Bitok, I wish government or President Ruto could actually just tell us the real politic where the country is, then the steps that they are taking to actually fix those issues, instead of this continuous misleading Kenyans. I think to this extent, we are almost like Pastor Mackenzie, who always misled the people of Kilifi, and they ended up in the state in which we are. So I think it's important just to say the truth. This is where we are as a country, economically. Because for me, I can relate. I mean, people from my village, friends, they call. But sometimes you even ask yourself, hey, even if I have money, some little money, and I also have mouths to feed, I've got bills to pay. Now, if I were to honestly respond to each and every of those requests, I will sleep hungry myself. I won't be able. It's not just manageable to be. And for me, that's the way I see the state of the nation today. There's a lot of suffering. People are suffering. People are not able to afford basics. Sometimes back, Bitok, I could pay by one check school fees for my children. These days I have to spread. And even the schools now understand. You have to spread paying school fees. Even insurance now, if you have got more than one cars, you have to make sure you spread them. You can't pay insurance at the same time for 2 cars, domestic insurance, medical insurance, and all those things. So actually you have to spread.
Hata siku hizo unalipa mwezi moja.
Hata siku hizi kuna installments. Na watu wanalipa in installment. So that just tells you that the state of the nation really isn't and to minimize politics. It's too much politicking, and we are not addressing the real issues that concern Kenyans. I wish really we could talk less politics, less critique the government, because if you don't critique the government, you won't make it strong. Government has to be called to account, but there's too much politicking at the expense of addressing the real issues.
Doc. As you talk about politicking, you're saying we don't do exactly what you're doing, because now that's politics you're playing. Because let me tell you something. When we talk about the economy, the state of it, and you are a person I respect in this country, that what we're seeing now, first of all, is not occasioned by this government. First of all, in terms of where we are, in terms of the debt, the debts that we have, the debts that we have to repay, the liquidity of government, the collection of the ability to collect taxes. Because first of all, this is a function of the fiscal policy and the bill that the appropriations bill and the budget that we're going to do. But I also say this, and I agree, that we may get to a point now and do serious work without politicking. And that is the most desired position. But I want to say this, especially when it comes to issues of cost of living and especially feeding ourselves. Eating cannot be a function of the government. We must also realize as a society that we have a responsibility, and we as leaders of society, whether elected or not, have a responsibility to tell people. For example, in this country it has become that when there's no maize, then there's no food. I don't know why we started equating food to maize.
Ugali bana.
No. Let me tell you. Staple food for us, for Kuyus, our staple food was not even githeri initially. We need
it was
to, what? It was ndoma, it was ngwashe, it was mianga. Mianga is cassava. It was those things, tubers and everything. And we must start diversifying our food, because the whole point, we must realize.
So you're trying to tell us we help the example Kimunya gave when he was Minister of Finance, that hata kama tuanze kula panya. Remember Kimunya said that.
No. That was insulting. What I'm saying, and this is something that I thought about personally, because I saw the dry spell. I went to the village and I realized there was the crop had failed, the maize had failed in my own farm. Then I asked myself, so why is it that after the maize fails, then there's nothing else that you can go to that farm and get? I started asking myself that question. Then I realized when I was growing up, I would go to that same farm and get yams, and would feed for the night. Okay. We would get other we would get bananas, and our mothers would feed us on that. Then I realized, right now, we have completely become reliant. And I'll tell you this, in my own village, in Gatundu South, I realized that people actually go to the shops to buy maize flour. I never, growing up, and this, to be honest, I never saw that packet of unga from a shop. The only thing I ever saw was a packet of unga of ngano, which would come once in a while, maybe during Christmas or Easter, maybe twice in a year. The rest of the time, everything that we fed on came from that small piece of land that my mother had. We would go and get potatoes, we would go and get cassavas, we would go and get arrowroots, we would go and get, and some of these things are tubers, and they are better. First of all, they are biennial or perennial, and they would stay longer. And this is no politics. So when I sit myself, forget now blaming the nation for hunger and everything. When I sit as myself, I ask myself, what solution? Because we might get a mad person at the presidency who will not care. So shall I live my life to that guy and die? So what I've done, even at the fence Zuko, instead of keeping a fence, we have now yams, and I've instructed my guys to do that, and cassava, so that at least I know personally and my family, if the worst came to the worst and there was war or something, God forbid, then you're able to feed. If the rivers, because by the time we restore the environment, because that is another conversation we must have, that I went to a place where we found rivers that would carry cows and big logs, and now the rivers are dry. So before you have that conversation of environmental restoration, we must have some other ways that as societies we fix. It cannot be. I cannot wait for the government to import unga in a ship to come and reach me before I eat. But I understand, and I'm saying this is not in jest. I know there are some places that it's completely, for example, there are some counties that it's completely difficult to even farm anything, yeah? But we have people who do something about
not
it.
To interject, I think let's not continue to lie to Kenyans. The problem in this country has been all about political lies. Like now, you've also just lied to us here that the problems we are facing today are not created by this government. To some extent, yes, but to some extent it's also true. We say this that I say this because William Ruto, Gachagua, and many people now who are in government are not new in the way in which the government is being run. For example, when you talk about diversification of food, one of the major problems, and it's no government has attempted to do it. If you look at what is called the national security of any country in the world, food security is an aspect of national security. And therefore, that means you will have to do certain things, Mwesh, that will ensure that there is food security in a country. For example, last 1 month, we've seen some very heavy rains. There's no policy on water harvesting in this country. You know, we just saw that water wash away, building, destroy property, and there's no attempt to. So yet we have got a ministry, somebody in charge of water in this country, somebody in charge of agriculture. Why are we not harvesting this water? Because this is happening elsewhere in the country. We have gone to benchmark, Mwesh. You know, in some countries like Israel, whenever it rains, no drop of water is wasted. They harvest it and they use it. They have desalinated the Dead Sea. And actually even now export water. We are very lucky that we have got a lot of water streams in this country. But we are doing nothing. We're not even channeling that water. We're not even creating tunnels to make sure that, for example, in the northern part of Kenya, where rains is rare, that we can actually channel them. The Indian Ocean, in my view, does not need the Hadi. Is it Sabana? That river. Sabaki River. Indian Ocean doesn't need those waters, but we need that water. Mzima Springs, you know, people in Mombasa actually suffer from, they don't have water, drinking water. Yet Mzima Springs is like, a well. Water was discovered in Turkana. So it requires a deliberate government policy to ensure that, for example, we make sure that, food security is part of us. Now, like I said, yes, there's nothing wrong with politics, Mwesh. In fact, politics is good, but it has to be constructive politics. What I see with this administration, which personally I voted for, is that there's too much lamentation, too much complaint about that. For example, let me just give you an example, Mwesh, and even you people in parliament will have to blame you at some point. Rigathi Gachagua comes and says 35 billion was stolen. Now you have got the instruments of power, Mwesh. Why is it that you cannot trace that money? You are saying some money is stashed somewhere in some islands. Give us the details. This is all just empty talk, rhetorical talk. It's politics that is not helping us, because the Constitution talks about accountability, that public money should be used in a prudent way in chapter 12, public finance. Now you're telling us money was stolen from the public coffers, 35 billion. And if I was at those 35 billion, I'll be able to fix the collective bargaining agreements with doctors, nurses, teachers, even CDF. You guys in the constituency, you have to go begging for CDF funds to be released to you, and yet you are being told by the top leadership money was stolen. But why are we not? And then lastly, let me the last one.
Don't lie to people.
No,
let me ask you a question. You're a lawyer,
okay,
and you're an advocate of the High Court. Tell me the case that you ever prosecuted in the shortest time.
Quite a number.
How? What period?
See, it depends.
Like from the case from the time you're appointed by any of your clients to represent them in court.
There's actually one I just did the other day.
Yes.
On Wednesday I was in court, and we resolved it quickly because the evidence was overwhelming. We had a very cooperative magistrate here in Milimani.
And I will not mention the parties. You went to court one day and you prosecuted the case. You did your first hearing, you did everything, and you finished in a day. We started hearing in the other week on the 13th of April. Okay, 13th of April, this month. Yes.
By Juicy, we had settled it. Why? Because the evidence was overwhelming. Magistrate was convinced. Even the accused person could not, even though he lied, but he admitted. Now we have settled it. It's a criminal trial. So, and for me, I'm happy because now that had decongested the court. And there are many others.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But you even said that this is even a case that is so overwhelming with evidence. And
yes.
So it's not complicated. It's not complex crime. So you want the government to come and, someone who was in power and someone who siphoned money, for example, that 35 billion and took it out of this country. First of all, to get that money and take it out of the country is a very complex web. And this is not just something simple. So you cannot tell the government to now come. And first of all, you were in the committee of experts that made this law.
Yeah.
And how hard you made it for the state organs to prosecute cases. You are the people who
did you make it out?
Let me finish. in that constitution, the constitution that we are the people who've created a constitution that says that you cannot even prosecute, you cannot arrest people before you have evidence, and that you only need to create evidence, create a good case, and then take it to court. You know, and this government is not just doing one thing. This is a government that is juggling. This is a government that has an education system that is in crisis. We have the junior secondary school that we're supposed to be creating, and we do not have a chance to do that. We have people who are going back to school and they want bursary. We have an education system. We have a devolved system.
Is William Ruto new in government, boss? He's
allow
him. You know, we have a devolved system that is threatening to down tools. You have a Ministry of Finance that is saying we have no money. We have a central bank that says now we have no liquidity. We cannot disburse this money. You have KRA that is saying we cannot collect money because business is not moving. We have a system that has blocked some of the channels for collection of excess duty and many other things. We have a system. We have a system that sells power at very prohibitive cost, and we're trying to bring the cost of electricity down so that we can increase industrialization and everything. You have short-term goals, you have medium-term, and you have long-term goals that we need to fix for this country. And you want all these things. You want us to sit here 9 months into the government and say, oh, we have not recovered the 37 billion. You know.
No.
Come on, you're not being honest.
No.
You know that. You know that even you, I am certain, you have cases that have been in court for over 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and you've been handling them, and you've been unable to sort them because you cannot find evidence. So we have a case now. We have a case in that we're just talking about in Shakahola.
No.
And we know that actually this guy who's in jail must have, who's in prison must have had something to do with this. But we just go and now say we have prosecuted, we have now charged you and sentenced you to whatever years. We must go through. Bitok, you just said that now we're saying now probably we'll start doing postmortem and everything. So we're saying give the government a chance. And you know this habit of just waiting, we're just sitting and saying, okay, last year when the other government was in power, we criticized it, and I like how Dr. here deals with issues, because I think, well, his criticism is constructive. But we must know, we must be honest with ourselves. You have vied for presidency before, and I am sure if you had been elected president, but of course, we know the challenges that would make that very difficult, because you know the dynamics. Also, that we must talk about the society, that about the chances of getting leadership are very warped and very imbalanced. Yeah. But you know, even if you got that chance and you meant well for this country, because nobody comes and says that that now me I mean bad for the country, but only that guy means good for the country. We all say that we mean good, and that other person doesn't mean good for this country. You know. You who means good for this country would not have, you would find very many impediments and obstacles. What I'll say is that I am not a government apologist, and I do not apologize for anybody. If anybody has made mistakes, we must call them out for what it is, but we must also give the government a chance to execute his mandate. It's not easy. Even me, who is in a constituency, I can't just fix everything. I know I have dilapidated schools, I have situations that are bad, the security issues are terrible, but it has to take some time for us to be able to fix things. You know, and you know, it is be very careful, Doc, not to exercise the prerogative of the harlot, power without responsibility. You know, it's very easy to just sit and point fingers at people and say this one is not doing, this one is not doing. But even us, as members as private members of society, we have our contributions to this, to the governance of this country. We have our own and we must audit ourselves also.
Wesh, if you want to help,
but even Wesh has not given us the feel of the nation. What's the state of the nation?
Yeah.
Well, I pretty much agree with Doc on that one. That the state of the economy is very bad, and we have, first of all, we have very high level of unemployment, and I associate this with lack of productivity in this country. We have killed all our industries, and it has been very systemic. I remember in 2018 when the government reduced removed the excess duty on importation of diapers. And that caused a few factories to close. I remember when we brought a law that closed plastic industries. It was good for the environment, but you must remember that we used to export 70% of the plastic that we produced here to other places. And as a country, we only consumed 30%, but it's okay, we leave it. But we lost about 135 factories closed in this country. So over time, we have killed industries and taken them to other places. So we do not have production in this country, and therefore we do not have employment. If you think about it, when you look at this setting that we have here, you realize that everything on the table here, everything, except nothing, has not been made in this country. It has come from another country. So it means that there was someone who was involved in a job on that day and created whatever it is that the person who made this book, there was employment. So in this country, we must start having the conversation of how to create employment. The first step is to make sure that we have affordable power. And we had this conversation about electricity and the cost of electricity and what is supposed to be done. And our policy in regard to green energy. We have cartels that we're trying to fight with. We have PPAs that were entered into that are so difficult to exit from. And I have very serious recommendations that probably we should intentionally make sure that we have run Kenya Power out of business, so that we have other people who do not have the baggage of the PPAs who can supply power to Kenyans, so that we get affordable power, because we cannot industrialize this country without power. I've seen the minister in charge of trade being very active and doing a lot of things. But if we do not have power, even if we open SEZs, nobody's going to do anything there, because the cost of power is prohibitive. So, because I think that is one single most expensive input in business that is prohibiting productivity in this country. So I agree that things are bad in terms of employment and in terms of food affordability, but we must have a lasting solution and not these knee-jerk reactions to situations.
Okay.
Bitok,
Yeah.
I want to share with you a comment from Abbas Njuguna. And Abbas Njuguna says, it's on record in minutes, billions were lost, orders having come from above. He put above in capital. What else do they need? And listen, and I agree with Abbas here.
That's with Abbas is talking about the issue of the control of budget.
Control of budget, even the other billions that Mr. Gachagua. We see when something like that comes from the second highest office in this land, don't tell us this is complex. When you say, for example, that Mr. Gachagua says that we inherited empty coffers, but then the government goes ahead within months on a spending spree, allocating 800 million for purchase of new cars, creating offices that are not there. For example, as chief administrative secretaries that will cost Kenyans billions of money, and creating some offices like offices of the spouses or whatever, of so and so. You see, that for me really is not rocket science. You are going to the supermarket to shop and you only have 200 bob. Why do you shop goods worth 400 or 500 bob? Why do you have more expenditure? This is what Kenyans are saying. Some of these lies, political lies, are not tenable. They don't require, you talk of complex, you talk of cartels. I have the instruments of power. I have NIS, National Intelligence Service, with me. Even this story of Shakahola, it actually is an indictment on the spying agency in this country. You want to tell me for all these months, somebody shouldn't have actually filed a report, an NIS member, because we know NIS is all over this country. Surely they should have said, something fishy is happening in Kilifi. DCI, can you investigate this? So some of those things, Mheshimiwa, let's not hide behind the excuse that they are complex. We talk of cartels in this country, and we know them. We also know the reason why the cost of living is very high. If you remember, I know we cannot blame me. You are not in Parliament in 2019 when VAT on petroleum was included. Mm-hmm. And that drove the cost of living high. Today, Mwesh, if you are so concerned about this cost of living, bring a motion in Parliament. bring a motion in parliament to remove, for example, VAT on petroleum, because petroleum energy drives everything in an economy, like you rightfully say. But we are not seeing any traction, even in Bunge. Even just a statement to be debated, even just a motion. Those are the things that Kenyans are saying we want to see. Instead, we are seeing a lot of excuses.
No, you've just not been seeing, and I agree, because you had said, I absolved you from that because you said you don't watch news. But you need to know that we have been discussing very serious issues that I have brought to the floor of the House about energy. We have even discussed the PPAs. Those things that I'm saying have been tabled as a motion in Parliament. Issues of VAT, we are just getting into the budget making process, and we are doing that, so it's going to be effected after June. These are not just declarations you do. And we also say, and you're an officer of the law, and we say that we do not want to be a banana republic. We don't just come and make declarations that will not make sense. These things must be passed in Parliament and be done formally. And like I said, these issues of tax regime are issues that are addressed in the budget making process. These are issues that we're going to address in the budget, and you will see it. You will see the VAT on energy being dropped in this coming budget. This is something that we've discussed. It's been a whole motion about the energy sector, because it is a drive, it is a cog that that enables business to happen. But I also want to say that I know that things are tough. There's no denying things are bad. But this blame game that we engage in, isn't it too soon, Daktari? Don't we want to? And you understand the things that this government finds itself in. It has so many balls in the air, juggling so many balls because of the state that we are in, and also that this is not, in as much as it's not very unique to this country.
You know why we're criticizing him much?
Yeah,
very hard, even within what you call it, because now the constant excuse from this government and people like yourself who are associated with it. And I'm happy earlier on you said you're not an apologist for government. You see, just visualize Kenya like that car that's involved in an accident, okay? And there are injuries. I would like you to tell tacklers watching this, what are the emergency measures that this government is actually undertaking, even as we wait for the long emergency measures that you are undertaking right now as a government or as an administration to at least alleviate some of the, because for example, when the food prices were very high, the Uhuru Kenyatta government brought in the question of subsidies, which our government has since dropped. Okay, and that's impacting negatively on the people. So I think what Kenyans are saying, fine, we are not the ones who came up with the plan. You came with the plan, and you said in that plan, within 100 days we'll do this. By January we'll do this. Like for example, President William Ruto promised to drop the cost of power by January, 1st of January, I think this year. That hasn't happened. It has actually gone up. Sometimes when I see my KPLC bill, I wonder whether I'm running a cottage industry in my house. Paka even ask my wife, how are you guys using electricity here? Because so I think Mwesh.
Maybe I understand this. You're a lawyer. I'm an economist. I'll tell you.
Even better actually.
I'll tell you.
Now that you're an economist.
Yes. I'll tell you this. If we have the interest of this country at heart, we must agree to have some very uncomfortable conversation, and we must make some very unpopular decisions.
Absolutely.
And that is the only way. And by the way, I would not apologize for that at any time. We must agree, even at home at times. You're forced to have very uncomfortable conversations with your children and your family members at times.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have had to have a very uncomfortable conversation with my daughter, even actually later today, about school and a lot of other things. So what I'm saying is, and I want to take you back to the stories that you said, and I agree with some and I disagree with some. For example, I will not sit here and lie that I can't make an apology for someone going and using public money to make an office for the spouse. I have no apologies for. I cannot apologize for such an action. For me, I also condemn it. But there are some things that you say, so there are some of those things that I also agree with you that are to be condemned, and they should be called out, and we have called them out, If you look at me, even in parliament, I've called them out, and I'm even calling it now out and saying that is bullshit, that is rubbish, right? But when we talk about subsidies, sincerely speaking, I am not sure that you want us to go and say that the cost of power, and you know what, we cannot act like we are somewhere by the roadside. We are responsible members of this society who have information that we should give the people. Because and we should be more responsible.
Yes, we should be responsible.
For example, when you say that we want the cost of power to go down, it cannot be magic, because this power does not produce itself. We buy as it is. Kengen produces power and sells to Kenya Power. Kenya Power is the one that is selling as power, and that is why you're finding your bill being very expensive. But you cannot wake up and say, now, I want a solution for this country, and also suddenly I'll give subsidies. You cannot give subsidies to power. We have PPAs that are done in court. You know what it means to have a document that is registered in court, and that we have this contract, and you cannot go against it. The repercussions that would be occasioned on us if we fail to pay that money as a country. So what you're saying,
that is the excuse you people are using.
It's not an excuse. Listen. I'm just saying here, we have a plan.
This plan is falling.
Listen.
All right. Let's
you cannot say a plan is falling even before it's begun. We just started this thing in parliament the other day.
Okay, what's the plan?
And
There's too much talk.
Call it talk.
What's the plan?
Call it talk. But I told you that is the prerogative of the harlot. You just sit there and say, too much talk. What are you doing? You're in the kitchen, you're cooking. You're taking too long.
Yeah, we have to see food. You can't tell us you're cooking and we don't see the food.
You want when you have potatoes and you want to cook them, not unless you want to have raw food, and we are not that irresponsible to just come and tell you now we'll give you raw food because you made this. No. We will be the responsible people, we'll be the bigger people, and we shall hold your criticism, but we shall do the right thing. It will not be popular. You will do the popular thing of maandamano and making noise on stations. We will do the responsible thing. This is what we're doing. Okay. We realized that we cannot just wake up and say that these PPAs don't exist. Okay. And these PPAs were not done yesterday. They are done for 30 years, and some of them are now as old as 10. They've been running for some time. Now, Kenya Power is unable to make any profits, or even to run and bill people power proficiently, because of the way it's buying power. So what do? We make sure that we have other ways or other players in the market that can distribute power.
Okay, what are you doing about that?
That's what you're doing. We are making the legal framework
which is
to allow private individuals to sell power to. First of all, it was even very difficult.
What is that legal framework? Just explain to us.
Listen, it was very difficult previously to even do a solar plant in the country. I am a director at KTDA. We had tried, and I'm the chairman of a power producing organ within our private KTDA. And it was very difficult to get to import even equipment for green energy like solar. So right now in Parliament, we have reviewed the excise, the duties that and the taxes that are around such importations, so that now we have individual people making power production easy. We have brought the wheeling.
Please name them. That's what Kenyans want to hear.
I've just told you. Yeah. We have now introduced wheeling, that you can produce your power here in Kibera, and if you want to use it in Westlands, for instance, that you can use the existing power line established by Kenya Power, and then you evacuate your power on the other side. That was not possible, and that is why private practitioners like ourselves at KTDA could not produce power in Murang'a and use it in Kiambu. Now we can. We've introduced that bill, and now we are wheeling. So we've put wheeling charges. So
you do your own cabling? Or?
No. Now previously we had been forced to do, like now KTDA was doing a power line from Nyeri to Kiambu, because we have Gura where we produce power, and that power can be used by other factories, but we could not get that power because we had to do our power line. Imagine getting to do a power line where there's an existing power line. So now we've introduced wheeling charges. So the power that we produce as KTDA in Gura, I can evacuate it at Kiambu and pay some little charge. So you see, so now I'm able to afford my farmers lower charges of electricity. And that is not just it. We've reduced any taxes on excise on panels for solar on solar panels that was very prohibitive before. We have allowed now, and this has not been passed, has not gone through the second reading, but it will come. Now, the ability for Kenyans to produce your own power and sell it to other individuals. You know, Kenya Power could not allow that. So there are many things.
So that is on power.
Yes.
You know, and I agree with one of the tacklers here was saying that you are making a lot of excuses and just lamentation. You know, some of us had to make a decision in 2022 who to elect, based upon, for example, the proposals on the table, because you have to consider the proposals, and you also have to consider the viability of those proposals, and convince that also these people who are making this proposal know government, they have been in government, they're actually able to fix certain things. For example, when you tell people within 100 days I will do this, within 6 months I will do this, and yes, some of these things are policy decisions. You are hiding behind just the idea of legislation, which is okay. It's important to regulate aspects in our society, but remember, government is not just run alone by law. There's administrative measures that you can take. There are policy measures that you can take. Of course, there are legal measures that you can take. Sometimes legal measures might be longer, but administrative and policy measures, just like the way we made a quick policy decision, let's buy cars worth 800 million. That was a policy decision. It didn't come to parliament for approval. Let's do certain things. So we must be seen, and we are not just lamenting. We are trying to encourage government to be proactive, practical. So if you're going to promise Kenya certain things, I use the example of subsidies. For example,
first of all,
let me just finish. Let me finish.
Okay.
I use the example of subsidies because it was alleviating a suffering. Okay, and many policy measures that can be done, because Mwesh, I know, for example, when government talks about cartels, there exist these cartels. The question many people are asking, what are you doing about it? When you tell us that 35 billion was lost, if either it's a lie, that there was no money that was lost, but if it is true, Bitok, if today I decide to tell Mwesh here to send Mwesh an M-Pesa, or I transfer money from my account, this money comes from where? It is from the National Treasury. Yeah? So, you want to tell me government of Kenya needs even a week or a day to trace that where this money landed? This is not money that was collected in sacks, unless Mwesh, it was a lie. But if it is true, but I have no reason not to believe. Wait.
Let me ask you a question. How did you hear the deputy president saying that money was lost, but you did not hear him saying that it was carried in sacks? So you had
no.
You had partly. He said in the same sentence that he said that the money was lost, he said the same thing that you're denying, that it was carried in sacks.
Was it carried in sacks?
I mean, why are you asking me?
No, I'm asking you because was it carried in sacks? How do you carry that 5 billion in sacks?
First of all, it was not my statement, but that statement that you said. So you decide if you're going to associate with the statement, you associate with the entire statement.
No,
as it was
you didn't understand me, Mwesh. I said,
So let's correct
this negative impression. You didn't understand me. I said unless it was a lie. Okay. But if it is true, that money was stolen.
But also said unless it was carried in sacks.
No.
And I'm saying yes, it was carried in sacks.
Was it carried in sacks?
Yes. That's what the statement
by
was.
Who?
I don't know. It's not me. That was a statement. No, you see, he said he would.
all references to a statement.
No, that is not my statement. I cannot defend it. I'm not the author of that statement, so I cannot produce it here.
Then why are you defending it?
I'm not defending it. I'm just saying that you said the correct statement because I had it. The same way you had it. He said, the person who said, because with that we had, the author of that statement said that money was carried and it was carried in bags. So you want to hear that money was carried, but you don't want to hear it was carried in bags.
Why Kenyans are hard, or I'm a bit tough on you and this administration, because we are not stupid. You can't tell us we inherited empty coffers, there's no money, and then you're also not telling us how.
Okay. Let's stop lying. Okay, fine. Let me accept that. Let me do this. Let's say now, then it has been a lie. The government has been lying. In fact, there was a lot of money. Okay. The coffers are full. The government has just decided to keep the money and just be happy or maybe steal it. So let's say the coffers are full And we have been lying. So I have now made it clear for the government. We found a lot of money in the government. We've just decided not to pay teachers. We've just decided to make salaries late, but there's a lot of money.
Sarcasm won't help you.
So what is that?
You know, as a leader.
So you see, you either decide. Okay. You know,
let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation.
You know what I'm saying?
Let's have a conversation.
That you're saying that it is a lie, that the government did not find empty coffers.
I said unless it was a lie. Just understand English, simple English. Unless it was a lie. I'm saying unless it was a lie that there was actually no money stolen. Yeah, it should be able then to tell us, trace for us this money.
But I don't know.
Left account A.
You're not talking about empty coffers. But anyway, now quickly, you guys are talking about empty coffers. Anyway, quickly moving on from that, because it seems you're not going to tie the ends of that.
Moesh is just being defensive.
No, it's not defensive. You know, I told you.
Me, I have no reason to not to believe what my deputy president says.
Let me tell you how the economy works.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how the economy works. The government has no side hustle. The government depends on the money that is collected from business done in this country.
Side hustle is the loans.
Well, but you know now this government cannot have another side. We cannot allow this government to have more side hustle. But anyway, so what I'm saying is, and you know the best thing about this is that Daktari, by the way, Daktari is more knowledgeable about this than I am. But now he's just, and I envy his position. You know, you just sit.
No, you just ask me basic questions.
You know, I envy his position, because you see, you just throw a salvo and you wait. You know, it's very easy. But now what I'm saying is,
but
you see, it's a very good position to be at. I envy your position. But I'm saying is that, you see, sincerely speaking, I remember we sat with the minister because it is good that we put this thing in the open. We sat with the minister of finance. And we as members of parliament, all of us together, both the minority side and the majority side, we told this guy, now, you know, even if we are coming to the end of the year, we have not disbursed the CDF money, for example. That is the one that is really affiliated with the member of parliament, and the one that people come to you and ask for, you know. And we told them we have not issued bursaries, so we had to sit. This guy came and said, I found, in fact, I was just a new member I said, no, this is how things happen. We are waiting for money to be collected so that we account for the money that was collected every evening. Now that to me was a bit scary. That we're saying, okay, we will disburse 2 billion every week. So let's not trivialize that conversation about the availability of liquidity in the government. And we've said, just like you're saying, that it's been very difficult for you to pay money for your school fees in one check. When you are able to pay school fees in one check, it means that there's a lot of money in circulation, and the government is able to collect more funds. So we must ask the question. The question to ask is not what the government is not whether there's money or not. Is that we should agree that there's no liquidity with the government. The question should be, how did we find ourselves here, and how do we get out of here? For example, we're saying that the taxes were supposed to be, the loans are supposed to be, the public debt that was supposed to be repaid this year is about 1.4 trillion. So how do we fix that and make sure that we don't default on what the country should be, should be on the responsibilities, on the financial responsibilities of the government, and still run other projects, and still run development projects. And that is why I say, we have not even done one budget. And all these things are done within the budget. And the budget making process is a long, tedious process. We are on it. We are in the kitchen. Just wait, at least just for one fiscal statement. You listen to the appropriations bill, and then we can say that appropriations bill. I wish we were sitting here talking about...
I'll give you an example. And not me, say, it's a tackler who is watching you. And this is what he's saying. Tell MP Kagombe that's Alex Mayore. Tell MP Kagombe that President Kibaki was sworn in on a Friday. And on Monday, he declared free primary education. He did not make excuses. He took action. And by the way, free primary education was not in his manifesto. But now this clueless KK admin came in, and now all they keep telling us, we are working on it. Give us 6 months. Mara, give us 1 year. When during campaign, they said they will implement things immediately. The government is selling hot air. we cannot have a lamenting government. That's what tacklers are saying. And it's true.
I understand tacklers.
And it's true.
I understand Mayore. But you see, there's a reason why I sit here and he sits there. There's a reason why
he expects you to represent him well in parliament. And in fact, Mheshimiwa, I want to make your work very easy.
I want to say no, don't make it easy.
No, I want to suggest to you how you can.
Don't make my work easy. I don't like easy things. Easy come, easy go. Let me work hard.
Why do you want to distribute bursaries?
Let me work hard, because now that's where we find ourselves.
Give it to an MCA. Let the MCA do that job. I want you to focus on three things.
Let you see, there's the law. So you want me to? The CDF is not given to the
CDF is
wait a minute.
CDF is unconstitutional. You know that.
You're throwing him a question, but he deserves to respond.
Okay, respond to Mayore. I'll keep quiet now.
Okay. There's also a reason why people decided to elect Ruto to State House.
Yes, true.
And this is us as Kenyans. We are the ones who did that. But I'll tell Mayore that it's very hard to explain to someone who is hungry that we are in the process of making something. But I want to tell him that we are not giving excuses. Personally, I'm not giving excuses. But I will also not do something that is untenable. I would not be party to telling government to subsidize power, to subsidize food, to subsidize, because for how long? That is a moving target. It's a moving target. And that's why I said we must be ready to do very uncomfortable things. These uncomfortable things we're talking about is exactly this, that we have to wait so that we do the right thing, that will take time, and then we do a permanent thing and a permanent solution to it. And that's why I'm saying, at least allow this government and this parliament to at least just do one appropriation, be just one. And then you look at it and say, it was nonsense or it was good.
Did it take a law to lower the cost of gas?
I mean, that is in the purview of the regulator, and he's always done that. I mean, that's true. I mean, we have the authority called, what is the authority called? The Energy Regulatory Authority. EPRA. They have always done that all the time. Every month they say that now the prices of gas are going to be like this, the price of... So that is, it took the law. It is in the purview of EPRA, and that is exactly what they did, as they have always done every month.
Mwesh.
Okay. Let's move on to something else.
I want to suggest to Mwesh.
6 minutes to...
I want to suggest to Mwesh what could make his work easy. If you read the Constitution of Kenya, the 4th schedule, Part 1 talks about functions of national government. Part 2 talks about functions of county governments. There is no function for a member of parliament in terms of development. CDF was declared unconstitutional, and you know that. But members of parliament have insisted on CDF so that they can disburse these bursaries, because for them it's a campaign tool. If I were you, Mwesh, I would focus on 3 things. To legislate, pass the kind of laws right now that actually will make our lives easy as Kenyans. Oversight Kenya government, and I like the fact that you are not an apologist for government, so you can call it out anytime, and to represent the people of Gatundu South, and of course, largely also Kenya.
By the way,
if you focus just on those 3 things, Mwesh,
by the way,
then you are able...
I'm on record, and on that one I agree with you. I'm on record saying that, there was this debate about CDF, whether it should be the member of parliament, and I know the way the law is, it should be very easy. In fact, even the people who challenged the is it called the Katiba
Institute?
The Katiba Institute, who challenged the CDF. I agree with them to some extent. But then there's a question I asked them, because we met in Mombasa with the Katiba Institute, and we asked them, there's the ideal situation, and the ideal situation would be that I would not even give bursaries, because the Ministry of Education would have identified ways of fixing the education system. But is that the case? No. Some of the things that CDF does is even doing police stations. Like now, I found a police station where the OCPD sits in Gatundu was leaking, and I'm supposed to find money to fix that police station. I am fixing the car of the OCPD again in Gatundu, because it had an accident and it has been not fixed by the system. So we are saying, I understand.
Fixed by the system?
By the Ministry of Interior. The Ministry of Interior should have, that's why I mean the system. There should have been a system of reporting that the car, let me finish. Let me finish. The police bought cars.
I'm saying,
you have lost the point completely. Just listen to me.
Okay.
Listen to this. I will repeat for your benefit.
So,
I am saying that I understand that the roles or where the CDF money goes can be sorted elsewhere and can be sorted if the system worked. When I came, instead of going to give bursaries, I would have been happier if the Ministry of Education had come and said, we have gone through the system and you realize that these 4-5 students cannot afford school fees, or therefore that this is the school fees that everybody can afford, and that's how you're going to put it at. But do you think it's possible for the government to offer everything for free? Then those are questions that we're supposed to have. So I'm saying, I agree that my work should have been just to legislate, oversight, just oversee the way government is spending its money and represent the people. But that is not kwa ground vitu ni tofauti. Siwezi enda kuambia my constituents ati now sisi we've decided to funga this bursary, and you wait until the Ministry of Education fixes the system to come to you and make sure that your leaking roof will be fixed, because it's going to take some time.
All right, okay. Just picking up from where you've left it, of course, on the educational matters, you have been championing a conversation about schools being utilized by locals, that you should not be having cross-county movements of students. If it's in Kiambu, the students in Kiambu should study. I don't want to cobble up that statement. Since you're here, you can make that case. You can tell us exactly what you meant, because many people have also looked at it as a balkanizing statement, that you are saying that. So since you're here, you can make it clear for yourself.
First of all, was a partial statement, but this is what I meant, and this is what I stand for. Our education system, first of all, is failing. How you realize that, and we have seen it, we've been juggling with, we've not been certain which system to go with. That's why we go 844, then we have a task force saying, okay, now let's change this. That's why we've come up with CBC and everything. But in terms of placement of students, and what I meant is that, first of all, we must put accountability to leaders. Where this came from, I was issuing bursaries. And I told you that in an ideal situation, I should not be issuing bursaries, because the Ministry of Education should have fixed that and identified how to take, or the county government. But you see now, the education that we're talking about is under the central government. So the Ministry of Education should have fixed that so that children are comfortable going to school, either paying school fees that they can afford or not paying school fees at all. So when I was issuing bursaries, I realized we have a lot of inequalities. I was just looking at the third basis for county revenue division, and I saw a county that, and this is done by the county revenue authority, by the CRA, and they were giving money allocated to counties per capita. We have a county that received 61,000 shillings per person. We have a county that received 12,000 shillings per person. So I was saying, the way CDF that Dr. Ekuru says is not legal is that money is taken at 2.5% of the national revenue and divided equally amongst all constituencies, without reference to the number of students or the population within those constituencies. Then it goes ahead to say that 25% to 35% of that fund shall be used to issue bursaries. A minimum of 25 that you must issue bursaries, and a maximum of 35 that you cannot go beyond. So I said, with my population of 80,000 voters, and with another constituency that has 20,000 voters, the number of students will be commensurate. I had an application of 9,000 bursaries. I could only afford 6,000 at a cost of 200, at a cost of 3,000 or thereabout. Then I was saying there's another sub-county that is able to afford bursaries of 100,000. So this inequality is straining these funds that have come to my constituency and my county, because the rest of the money that you've not used to give bursaries is the amount that you use to now develop like the schools and the school infrastructure. But why are we developing the school infrastructure? We are developing the school infrastructure because we have to increase classes, because the quota system has placed a lot of students in our sub-counties and in our counties, and we are unable to now handle the population. So what I was saying is that there needs to be equity, and there needs to be accountability. The people who have been given this money, we must see what people do, and this we must agree to do. We must say that we have had devolution for this long. What has the money done? How has the 150 billion that we have taken to Turkana in the last 10 years, how has it been utilized? Is it of value to the people of those places? What is it that they need? Do they need education infrastructure? Has it been put? So that we say, before we go further, we sit and audit the use of these monies and then decide that probably this money should not be taken. Because if we are seeing that it's not working, Mangu High School, which happens to be in my county, received 846 Form 1s. How many classes do you think you need to just handle those Form 1s? Mary Hill Girls has now a population of 2,700. So the same money that we are used, and these are facts. Moho High School has now a population of 1,200, and with a dormitory capacity, in an ideal one, of probably 500. So our infrastructure is training because of the quota system, and it happens that what the quota system also does is that it keeps the people from within our counties who are supposed to benefit from this infrastructure that is around them, and it goes to other people. And this is a genuine conversation we had. The law says that it should have been at 15%, 85% local students, and then 15% from elsewhere. This is not the case. We do not even have 10% of our students in our county. And that conversation, I cannot apologize about it. We must claim what is ours, and we shall not be vilified for that.
Where did you go to school? To high school?
I went to Mururi High School.
Mururi?
Yeah.
Where is it?
Where my father lived, where I lived just outside there.
You see,
you may allow me. You may say that I have ignorance because I did not travel. I just sat there.
What do you mean just outside? Anyway, Doctor, what do you think about that?
Those us to the other topic, which is a push for one man, one vote, one shilling. We'll come to that. But I'll tell you this: when I listen to Mweshia, and I think I can boldly say that I'm older than you, and even older than Bitok. Mm-hmm. And
you cannot guarantee that.
I can guarantee, Bitok, you're my junior. You're my junior. Yeah, exactly. You see, the problem we have these days in this country is very ignorant parliamentarians. When Mwesh talks of audit, there is the Auditor General report that every year actually has audited the use of money per county. Every county, all the 47 of them, every department of government are thieves in equal measure, Mwesh. Well, the problem, Mwesh, is you guys in the parliament. When the auditor report comes and the governor so-and-so or so-and-so has been judged as having not used the money properly, you people change audit findings into queries. That's Mheshimiwa is where the problem is. And that's what I'm saying. If I were you, I would stop with this issue of issuing bursaries and whatever, getting involved in matters education, but just oversight, both at the county level and at the government level. The Auditor General report actually produces a report every year. And I'm happy that you're an economist that says County X has not actually, like Turkana, that money that has gone there, we are the second recipient after Nairobi. But what is there to show for it? There is a finding. Members of Parliament, your committee, you now turn those findings into audit queries, and yet you're not auditors yourself. By the time the auditor happens, so actually Parliament is failing Kenyans because you're not asking the right questions. You're not.
You got me out of context completely.
Why?
I am.
But we talked about auditing on money. Use of
no.
money.
I'm not saying auditing. You see, that's not what I meant. Auditing happens. I'm in the Public Accounts Committee. We're just about to finish those things that you say, the audit queries for this. But what I meant is not the whether the money has been used properly. You know, what the Auditor General does is to say this is the budget you presented and this is what you said you would do. Did you do that? Right? You said you would build a school or a hospital. Did you do it? Did you do the procurement processes properly? Did the money go to that use? All right? That's not what I'm saying. The problem, what I'm saying is
he goes ahead and makes a finding, because even if we pull the Auditor General report today, he makes a finding in terms of figures that are not been accounted for, meaning somebody stole.
That's not what I'm alluding to, by the way. I want you to get me correct.
Okay.
Supposing that you said that, supposing you have no audit query, you've used all the money as you had said in your budget, all right? And you have no audit query. But did this money go to projects that help these people? Did we need a school at that time that, you know, if we sat here and we said we are members of a certain community of the county assembly, and we said that we will need to do a drainage system and a class and a hospital, and we do exactly that, there will be no audit query in terms of the Auditor General. What I'm saying, the audit I'm saying, is to ask, did we need, as the people of this county, is what we needed a hospital or drainage? You get? Is this money now coming to help these people? Because that was the point of devolution, because devolution was supposed to address issues that were historically unjust to some counties, all right? And that is why some of the counties like Turkana will get a bigger allocation than other counties, because maybe you probably need to do more roads, you probably need to do more infrastructure, you know, all those things. That's the audit I'm talking about, the social audit, not the financial audit of saying that this money has been spent according to the budget, because that is an issue that shall be addressed by the courts and everything.
It's the need audit.
The need audit. Have we used that money prudently? It's not whether you've used that money according to...
The answer is very simple. The money has never been used prudently, and I don't need to look further other than just look at the Auditor General report and the findings they make. But what do parliamentarians do? They sit on those things, and that's why Parliament is failing.
Do you agree with this proposal on schools?
On schools? Yeah. No, I don't agree. Because that is... you see, we are one indivisible nation and country. If today you go that route, Mwesh, by the way, it's your community that will suffer the most. First of all, in your community, some schools have even been closed because there are no children that goes to those schools. Secondly, your community is very entrepreneurial. Since oil was discovered in Lokichar, today you've got serious businesses from the Kikuyu community, central Kenya and the rest. So that's a very dangerous talk. It will create division in this country. It heightens tribalism and negative ethnicity. And in my listen, when I went to school, Bitok, I went to school at a time when actually I went to school in Baringo, I went to school in Mtongwe, I went to school, school in Nairobi. I think if we try to introduce that issue, first of all, you're even going against
those places you went to school are good. I'll tell you, the child who was born and whose parents lived in Kileleshwa in the 80s went to school to Kileleshwa Primary. The one who was in Kilimani went to Kilimani Primary. The one who was in Westlands went to Westlands Primary. The one who was in Thika went to the one who was in Gatundu, like myself, went to Mutunguru Primary. And it was okay. And there was no imbalance. What we're saying, what these people have failed to do, they have failed to create infrastructure, and that is why the whole point of devolution was so that Turkana County is able to now get to the level that Kiambu County was. That by the time we get to 10 years or 20 years, they will have created schools, infrastructure, sewerage system, so that there is equality. All right? When they fail to do that, and I'll be very disturbed by you failing to accept that we need to audit these people so that we make this infrastructure and this money that was supposed to be for equalization work. That is my point. So that these counties that we have that were created, that the equalization fund was created for example, if we just sit there and say and not audit this.
And people, what do you do with fundamental freedoms, Mheshimiwa? Because I want to answer you from a constitutional point of view. The Constitution of Kenya says that any Kenyan can live anywhere in this country.
I have not said that if you are Luo and you live in Kiambu that you don't belong to Kiambu. What I'm saying is that the money should follow you where you are. If you want to come and live in Kiambu, you're okay. You'll be part of the people who are in Kiambu, and you will benefit from the infrastructure in Kiambu. And therefore, the money that was supposed to follow you will come to Kiambu. When you're talking about per capita allocation of money, then it follows you in Kiambu because that is where you live, and that is where you come from, and that is where whether you were born there or not. That's what I'm saying. But now the problem we have is that we are taking money for a child who is supposed to be in Turkana and allocating that money because that child is underprivileged or underfunded by the government, and we are compensating by allowing more money in that county. But then the local government there does not make the infrastructure, so that child has to come and look for education in another county. Yet his money was sent to that county, and that is why we sent more money. That's why we sent 61,000 shillings to Lamu per person and 12,000 shillings to Kiambu per person. You get? But then these people, and by the way, this is an accountability issue. Don't take it that I'm saying
that's
that.
What I'm telling you, Mwesh.
Yeah.
Let's not regurgitate on this issue of accountability. Accountability has been done, and findings have been made. Parliament has failed to actually bring these people into question. The executive has failed to bring these people into question.
That is what I'm doing.
Because it is the executive.
That is exactly what I am doing. I am bringing these people to question. I'm asking those questions, and I'm asking you be accountable. I am a new member of Parliament, and when I came, I said we must do this, and we must have public participation. We just don't wake up one morning and say, okay, now we are going to change the third basis of division because we've decided that. No. We must, first of all, I have the duty, and this is how legislation is done, I must have public participation. I had to tell those people that we must have this conversation now before we go to Parliament and change the allocation of those money, so that we say this money has not been used, and you've said this money has not been used prudently. So what do? We move to the next level. We change the allocation. That is what I'm saying. No, but you cannot say what I'm doing is legislation. What I was doing is my work, is representation. And therefore, after representation, I go and legislate. That is exactly what I'm doing. So don't keep saying that Parliament has failed. Parliament has not failed because I'm here and I represent Parliament. And that is what I'm doing. Even on this show, what you're doing is a process of legislation.
I will tell you what we have said here repeatedly. Parliament is sokojinga. In fact, the quality of parliamentarians we have today, first of all, it's all about just...
it's a reflection of our society.
Yes, it's true. So it's true.
It's a reflection of our society. If you decide that the society is stupid,
I totally agree.
Because you see, we represent people and we're elected by people. And we're elected by people. I have no apologies. If we are stupid, then it's okay. We represent people and we are stupid. Those people elected us. Then you so the statement that all of us are stupid, all Kenyans are stupid. It is okay. You call Kenyans stupid. It is fine. You have nothing to lose by calling Kenyans stupid.
I don't want to call Kenyans stupid.
You will sit on your high pedestal, drive your big car, sit in big offices, and now calling
I'm not calling Kenyans stupid.
No, that's a very high moral pedestal.
I'm not calling Kenyans stupid.
No, actually, not a moral pedestal. It's an academic pedestal.
No, it's not. Okay. All I'm telling you,
but you're a doctor. You're allowed.
No.
You're a doctor of education.
There's no excuse here. All I'm saying is
there's no excuse. If you're stupid, that is what it is.
If people elect you and you call you leader, because you people will own the title Mheshimiwa, we want to see leadership. That's all I'm telling you, Mwesh. Even if people are cows, political cows or ngombe, don't align yourself, because then we are telling you, distinguish yourself as the leader from those people. Help your people, chaperone your people to the right direction. No, not to say, I'm elected by stupid people, so you're saying I'm also stupid.
But I'm saying, you say
I don't think
is doing nothing. Okay. And I'm telling you,
well, let's take a vote from Kenyans. You see for yourself that Parliament is actually failed.
That is why we're doing public participation. And finding out what Kenyans want. They will say.
Right. Okay. I think the product of our political class, of course, is an electoral process. That's why it's also not fair to say the whole Parliament is
as an institution. I'm not talking about individual parliamentarians, but as an institution. But the institution is a product of individuals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because individuals are products of
because even right now, as you speak, I mean, we like now the hottest issue, of course, in the country is the cost of living. So Kenyans expect Parliament to do something about it, and it has to be conspicuous. People have to see it. It's not just about talk. There's too much talk, too much lamentation, too much politicking. Right. But you see, we have expectation from my member of Parliament here, and when he's in that Parliament, whereas he's representing the people of Gatundu South, but he's also representing me as a Kenyan wherever I may be, in whatever constituency. And that's our expectation.
But did I ask you, were you ever in Parliament?
No, I've never been to Parliament.
Oh.
And I'm not interested.
Okay, 16 minutes past 9 a.m. 16 minutes past 9 a.m. I don't know where that question was going. But anyway, now going back to Parliament, where you guys sit. So there's a political crisis in the country. maandamano comes, mwingine anasema nimeibiwa, mwingine anasema ni yangu. He's landing today also with another rally. Landing with a rally.
Yeah, in Kibera.
Yes. So, of course, so there's the elections happen.
Is it like Kibera or Jacaranda?
Of course, it's
strongest basis.
So elections happen. We've not recovered from elections. 10 months down the line, we're still fighting with the demons of the elections. Now, these people somehow on a Sunday afternoon, they all make press statements and they say, well, right, we are ready to speak. We are ready to talk. We are ready to have a conversation. And they call it bipartisan conversation. And they say, okay, fine, we take it to parliament. No, we take it outside. No, finally, they say, okay, we take it to parliament. Every other person, the parliamentary, the given parliament, members of parliament, these are our members. Now, guys, go and have tea, have mandazi, have whatever you're having, and have a conversation. On our side, we have suspended maandamano, and on the other side, they are saying, fine, we have returned the tear gas, and they've returned the rollies, which you are doing showers. Less than 2 weeks down the line, you guys are fighting again, and you're sending us back to maandamano on Tuesday. And this is well.
Yeah, because Monday's
a holiday. They have moved it to Tuesday.
They moved it for
so Mheshimiwa, I'm very disturbed as a citizen, because I would imagine that this is not my business. I have voted, I've made a vote, whoever I voted for, wherever I put it in, we have a leadership on both ends, whether minority or majority, they're all leaders. And we expect that the responsibility of running a nation moves away from the citizens because we've done our responsibility. What else do you guys want us to do? After voting, mtaka tufanye nini sasa? Tukuje bunge tena tuwafuata matufanye nini? Now we've given you the responsibility and you say, okay guys, you sort your beef there because your beef is political. Your beef that's nothing to do with mwananchi. So you guys mmefika huko tena mmepigana. Mmesema turudi maandamano. Who pays the cost of maandamano? It's not the leadership of the political class majorly. It's the people. Because if the government is not able to run, it's not the members of government or the members of parliament who now contribute money to say serikali is not doing very well, the country is not doing very well. Change kidogo mwananchi apate kitu. The cost of bad governance, the cost of bad politics is borne by the people. So what is going on with these failures of bipartisan talk?
You know, after that Sunday of truce and saying we put this down, then you remember Baba and his people went to some place in, I think, Ukochini, in the Machako somewhere. And he immediately took an about turn and said that he doesn't trust parliament. So when I said there is nothing, this thing, first of all, even this maandamano was not about any cost of, was not about the things that was purported to be about. This maandamano was not about the cost of living. This maandamano was not about all those things. This maandamano, the closest Baba came to saying the actual truth and what this maandamano is when he asked people to boycott KCB and Safaricom. That's when he came close to actually telling the people what this thing is about. Because
the cat out of the bag.
Yes, he almost let the cat out of the bag. Because that is the whole issue. This maandamano is not about the cost of living. Because if it was about the cost of living, this maandamano should have started in April. Because the cost of living was still high at that time. This maandamano was not about, is about IEBC. This maandamano is about, all those other things. But what I say is that,
election laws.
Yeah, what I say is, we must get to a point where we say now, we are democratic, and that we accept the systems that are established by the law. And we must also be responsible. There are some things that I cannot be just like Dr. here said, rightfully so, that it's not everything that is about the law. There's probably no law that stops you from sneering at me, but you probably just decide to be nice and, there's no law that stops you from being rude against someone, but you just decide to. So there's even some political decency and political hygiene that we must agree to practice. If you've gone through the entire system of justice and you feel that we appealed for elections and this is what happened, you just concede. It's good courtesy to concede and follow the law as it is. So, but knowing Raila Odinga, I don't see that happening. I don't think there's a time he will say now I was defeated and now I will sit here. But there's also something else. There's a different way I look at it. First of all, I think Raila Odinga has managed in this country to have a very successful political career. He's been able to be perpetually here. And I have this theory that Raila Odinga intentionally and very calculatively does not want to be president of this country. Because being the president is a direct ticket home. He was with Kibaki went and left him. He was with Uhuru has gone and left him. If God gives him health, he's going to be with Ruto, and Ruto will go home and leave him. He was also with Moi, yes, and Moi went and left him. And I think Baba, the way Baba is wired, he just wants to be politically relevant for all time. I mean, you see, when we were in high school and we were doing agriculture, there's something I heard about economic importance of a pest. I was like, it cannot be economic importance. So it was what was supposed to be the mess that he creates is what the scientists call economic importance. So it is a relevance of Raila Odinga that he wants to protect. And I'm convinced that Raila Odinga just calculates and just wants to have a high vote and not get to be president. So that he because you know what that makes Raila Odinga is powerful. He has power without responsibility. He can walk to any office in this republic. He can even outside the republic, and he will be seen as a representative, as a Kenyan leader. But you can never point a finger at him and say, now you've not done ABC. You know, I told you, leadership is lonely at the top. The questions that Dr. is asking here are very difficult to Ruto and to myself. And you know, you cannot ask those questions to Raila, ever. For the last 40 years, there is no question that Raila has ever been asked. But he's been in this government. Even in the previous regime, you say he had a handshake, you ask him, he said, no, it was not. I was not in that government, I was in the opposition, you know. And I think Baba thrives in chaos, so that he continues to create, he's a lot of poverty. He wants to continue creating poverty. That's why you find that he thrives where there's a lot of poverty. That's why he will come and hold his meeting at Kibera. That's why he will go and hold his meeting at Jacaranda. And we are not, we must be honest with ourselves that probably those places will have people with very low income abilities, and those are his people. And that is how he wants them to be. And when he finds that the country is probably just about to develop and give people opportunities, then they will not be dependent on him, and then they will not depend on him for political solutions. He doesn't want. And that is why he has managed to even brainwash even some very serious members of this society, people you would not expect to be brainwashed, including parliamentarians. I've just told you, I met someone and they told me that they can't remember their telephone number because they just changed it from, because Baba told them to boycott a certain telecommunication company and a certain bank. You can imagine a bank, someone telling you to boycott a bank that has probably offered you a loan to run your business. How do you boycott that bank? You stop paying loan or what? And then they come, some of these things, those things can only be said to poor people, not people who have, how are you going to tell me to stop banking? I'm employed, I have a loan with, or some transaction that to do with KCB. How do you tell me to boycott KCB? What does that person
Because Mwesh, witchcraft is real, especially when it comes to political affiliations in this country.
So, why those talks? Because that's where I want to go. Why you guys cannot sit down? Civilized members of parliament.
Actually, this is what happens. Let me tell you.
You cannot sit down.
I was telling you the chronology of events. After Baba said that he's willing to sit down, 2 days, they went for a meeting, he said he doesn't trust the parliamentary system. Even before we named the people who are going to be in that team, he said he doesn't trust.
But he named his own parliamentarians.
But before he named, he first said that he doesn't trust the parliamentary system. Okay. The story being talked in parliament. Then he said, then they said they are going to talk. Then now the other side, Kenya Kwanza side, named its people. He said that they brought people who belong to his side. He said that now there is Kenan and Mutuse, and they are not people from Kenya Kwanza. I was like, you're supposed to give seven people. You should be happy if these people are your people. Then you now have 9, and the other side has 5. So you should be happier. But you see, he's just been. The intention was not to create peace or to create quiet. The intention was that Raila had realized that his mandamano was not working, and he needed he needed a way out to tell his people, now this is what you're trying. But he still wants to come back with some more energy. And Baba's what Baba peddles is this political influence. That's why you find he had now Chomoka Kidogo to go and
to go and ask for funding, nini story, hivyo kidogo, and then come back. And now he has more energy to continue with maandamano.
But now you guys, I want to understand these two things.
In Parliament, when the teams went to Parliament, the first excuse actually that is just about to bring this maandamano kusambaratika is that Kosing and Kena are not should not have been brought by Kenya Kwanza. And to me, you should be happier that you now have people that you are yours. Because if these people have
Bitok,
but I thought
you see, Mwesh is cutting around the bush on this issue, because he should be telling us the truth. And this is the truth. Bipartisan talks is a lie. It was not intended to be there, Mwesh, and you know it. Yeah.
So nobody wanted to have the talks.
No, nobody. This is a perfect case where both sides are managing their bases, and in fact, KK is into this bipartisan talk, but to because of the agreement they have reached with Raila Odinga. And by KK I mean President William Ruto, and even Uhuru.
What is the agreement?
Yeah, the agreement is very simple. That we lost this election. But now I have to be seen. There's a negotiation going on. I mean, listen, in 2020, did I not tell you here, Baba na Chezwa? Yeah? I can assure you, Mwesh, Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto, and Raila Odinga are talking. They already talked. So now the question is, we must manage our bases. And this bipartisan talk, even if you look at, for example, what is bipartisan? First of all, bipartisan over what? What are the talks? Earlier, Bitok, you made reference to the fact that the country is in a crisis. What is the crisis? Nobody has defined for us the crisis in which the country is. If there is a crisis in this country, it's the cost of living. And that cost of living, and even you don't need to create what is called bipartisan talks in Parliament. Parliament on its own as systems and is an avenue for which to address some of these issues in terms of
which are bipartisan anyway.
Which are bipartisan.
All the conversations are bipartisan in Parliament.
So to create, and you see, in Parliament, you have the leader of majority who represents the government of the day. Then you have the leader of minority. You have got the whips and all that. Those are already offices inside Parliament. So anything about the country can still be addressed by Parliament. You don't need a political agreement outside Parliament to say, now talk. The presidency or a leader of opposition cannot direct Parliament to talk about certain things. This whole thing is a lie.
But for me, whether a lie or not, for me, anything that was to stop the maandamano as it was, for me was welcome. Whether it was Baba telling his people we shall have bipartisan talks or whatever it was that would stop people. Because, let me tell you, my kids go to school around here. And we will not go to school on those 2 days. Like there's a week, it happened on a Monday and a Thursday. I have a lot of people who work in my office come from these areas, from Kagombe, from Ngong Road and those areas. They could not come to work. So I am paying people. At the end of the month, I will be paying people who have not been to the office for 8 days.
But the question is,
in a month. So for me,
because your leadership and even that of Parliament has no courage to address wrongs or violence. For example, if KK was serious, you will stamp your authority. The Constitution of Kenya says, fine, under Article 37, I think, you've got the right to picket, to demonstrate, but it has to be peaceably. Now, when it's not peaceful, then the government of the day should be seen to be taking action against. And in fact, in this particular case, President William Ruto and the former President Ekuru Kenyatta, I do believe, and I've said it repeatedly, they never raped anybody, they never burnt any house in the 2007-2008 post-election violence, but they took the greater responsibility. And if this government was any serious, it will say, Raila Odinga, Eugene Wamalwa, Martha Karua, Jeremiah Kieni, you guys will face the greater responsibility because of mobilizing and organizing this maandamano, which is causing damage to businesses, affecting now your office. But government is not doing that. Government is scared because they have no courage to do it. I mean, how will enforce the law against this leadership? Why did the government go against the leadership of Mungiki at that time?
On that one, I told you I'm not a government apologist, but we must also be honest with ourselves. There's and I said, there's what we call the principle of the lesser evil. And the president thought
Now, this thing, it's fine. You can decide to arrest Baba and arrest all those people and do it and say
Baba has been arrested before.
No, yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm saying, and for me, that is failure to on the side of government. These guys should have been arrested a long time and prosecuted. But I also know that even the Bible says that before you go to the judges to get your case sorted out, try and discuss these issues. So if yes, you try and do it. So if you find a more peaceful way of getting Baba to sit and stop, like it has happened, the end goal was to stop Mandamano. So you can decide to stop Mandamano by arresting them and saying there will be chaos for 2 weeks and then it will die down. And then there will be injuries and because those things will happen before the law is enforced. Law is enforcing the law is when people decide to be unruly and you enforce the law, there will be injuries, there will be casualties and such. Or you can decide to go that route, or you can decide to sit with Baba and talk
the problem
and and buy time and say okay, because like now we have stayed for almost 3 weeks of peace.
But now let me ask you more. Picking up from there, because this is where responsibility have gone. It has moved to the street, it went to parliament. Now, if you are painting that scenario where you're saying that even you as a leader, you're affected, that your employees will not come to work when there is Mandamano, that your children cannot go to school when there is Mandamano, that you cannot run your office when there is Mandamano, that even
you lose money.
Yeah, that even you lose money because you're paying
economic sabotage
for an exchange which is not there. But then again, with that picture that you painted that looks so grim, you can only imagine how the common citizen, what beatings the common citizen takes. That person is not able to go to work and they are not on a salary. They earn every single day from things that they do on a daily. By the end of the kama ni mjengo unaenda mjengo unapata ya siku hiyo. So if you cannot move that day, it means you are not able to earn anything on that day. You're relying on that day to take your children. Forget about your children just not going to go to school. But this person even depends on this so that they can pay the school fees for their children. I mean, every single thing revolves around what they do when they wake up in the morning and how their day ends. You can only imagine how bad their beating is, if also you can feel the pain as a leader. But now with even that picture that you've painted across the board, I want to imagine that every other person in that parliament feels. You have a team that has been constituted. That you're saying, and that's why I agree with Daktari, that there seems to be no goodwill to actually have this conversation. Because there's a feeling of deliberate bungling from both ends. That this too. Because for instance, if the conflict is Adam Canaan, who in all records and in all honor is a member of Jubilee Party, who as it is right now does not have any agreements with Kenya Kwanza government. As it is, we saw Uhuru the other day eating tear gas in Kileleshwa, Dig Road. By all standards, he's not a member of Kenya Kwanza. We also have, I think, Azimio Asri Posing on this other end. Tell me, explain to us in layman language how this willingness to have this conversation.
To be very honest, personally.
So my
personal opinion, and I'm not speaking for Ruto, for President Ruto, I'm speaking for myself. Okay. I would not welcome any talks with anybody. The talks that should happen in an ideal situation should have happened in a legal framework in the court, and that happened at the Supreme Court. After that, there's no discussion, because what is the essence of democracy then? Then we change this thing and we make it. Then we agree that we shall get some appointment to go daktari kama huyu, like we had made a committee of experts. Then they give us a president or they provide leadership. But if we agree that we're in a democracy where people will wake up and go and vote, can you imagine if I went to vote, if I was voted in and then people say that now we come and talk? So even it is even usurping. So you are confirming that there's no good.
It's probably because even people who are in government, kuna ukoro walifanya, and these other guys know. So that's because, and I agree with you, totally agree with you. If I was elected, and I say this, and we said it here, Bitok, that the Ruto administration has no business entertaining Raila Odinga.
I agree
in whatever form.
I agree with you, and for that,
it can entertain Raila Odinga in parliament through the representatives of his party.
Yes,
Raila Odinga, yes, is a party leader. He's an ordinary Kenyan, just like the rest of us. He's not above the law. It is Raila Odinga who invoked the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court when he filed that petition.
Yes.
And the Supreme Court did not find evidence that William Ruto did not win.
That's
and
true.
Declared him as such. So, and that's why I keep on saying, I think William Ruto is also captive. He is not courageous enough to tell Raila, you know what, I won this election and I was declared so, I have the certificate, so don't bring me shenanigans here. I'm going to govern the country, I'm going to implement my plan. And which is sometimes when we criticize CCK administration, we are telling them, stop taking us back to this politics. And I really hope you guys can gag Gachagua kidogo. Stop taking us back to 2022. Focus now on your plan. And Kenyans will all see this government is now implementing what it promised. But instead, you have actually also allowed yourself to be drawn into some completely useless fight, which does not make sense. That bipartisan talk will not reduce the price of unga. That bipartisan talk will not reduce the price of electricity. There's a law, there are regulations that we should.
It's an economic question.
Yeah, it's an economic question. So, and let me tell you, William Ruto's administration will not be failed by Maandamano or by Raila Odinga. It will be failed by failure to improve the state of the economy. That's what will fail William Ruto. It's not about Raila. It's not about this politicking. And the sooner he understands this and moves on and focuses on what people want, the better for his administration.
I agree with you 100%. And on that one, I agree with all. I associate myself with the sentiments that I think we need to be more candid in dealing with Raila Odinga. If it were me, I would not have any conversation. I would not entertain any conversation. And I have been on record telling the president, please stop entertaining this guy. In fact, arrest him. Let whatever happens, happen. These people bear the highest responsibility of all the crimes that happen around here. When people are killed, when people are maimed, when businesses are looted, it is you, because the looting doesn't happen on Tuesday. It only happens when you make the clarion call.
When you organize that.
He is the one who organizes and makes the clarion call and tells people, now let's go. You know what to do on this day. You know what to do on Monday. You know it's the day for you to cause chaos. It's the day for you to steal. It's the day for you to do all these things. And I agree with that. But there's a statement that you said, and you said you should probably gag the deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua. And personally, I'll tell you, President Uhuru comes from my constituency. And I went through a lot of, trouble with him during the campaigns. He was a sitting president, and I was vying under a party he did not want. You know how things were. And I have desisted completely from making any comment about that person or the previous regime. In fact, there's even a time I said, even in that time when there was that statement that we were talking about earlier, I said, we will not talk about the previous things, tugange yajayo. But now, at times, even when you do that and you say you've forgotten this guy, and then you find now the guy has come with anakula tia gazuku na majamu wengine. You're like, now even when we wanted to forget you, now you've come. I must say, I feel very bad.
You know why, Mwesh? And I go back to the fact that William Ruto is not courageous enough to lead this country. Because if you look at, if you consider, and maybe this is a motion you should bring in parliament, or even make a statement for debate. You see, there's what they call the president's Prime Minister and designated officers Retirement Benefits Act. Now that act is very clear, and it's you guys who passed it in Parliament. Don't mean you exactly, but it's not part of Parliament. Yeah. That law is very clear, Bitok. It says that for you to enjoy those kind of benefits, especially for those officers, former president, vice president, former prime minister, chief justice, and I think attorney general, you must desist from politics, active politics. Now, Raila Odinga is in active politics, even calls himself leader of the opposition, party leader. I mean, I don't even know which party he is, whether it's Azimio or ODM. The law is also very clear. You cannot be a member of two political parties at the same time. So why don't you guys bring a statement? And you should promote this. I can even write it for you if you want. Table that statement to be debated. Should Raila now be paid from the Retirement Benefits Act? Or should it be stopped until that time when he says, I've retired? And I know you say we should not talk about Uhuru Kenyatta, but Uhuru Kenyatta is the one who made this mistake. During the 2013 campaign, William Ruto and Uhuru said that you can only enjoy those benefits if you retire like President Kibaki did. And they refused to pay them until the handshake happened. So now you continue. So now, my advice, solicited advice to William Ruto, if you truly want to curb some of these things, there's too many ways of killing a rat, as they say. Yeah, you can finye on that retirement benefit act, yeah, and you will see maandamano will stop. Because you cannot be enjoying certain services of a statesman. Yeah? But at the same time also unachafua the same state that is giving you that respect. So why not enforce that act?
I take your advice.
Yeah.
I'm advised.
And
I'm advised.
And Ruto should be courageous.
No, I take your advice. I'll take this. I'll take this. Because now it defeats sense, because you cannot, first of all, I ask, you say you do not recognize the government. But then you are undermining so that the government that you don't recognize acts on something. I mean,
that's why Mwesh, I told you earlier, all this thing is a game. Hii ni mchezo tunachezwa, ni karata tunachezwa. You don't recognize this government, you don't recognize this presidency, you call yourself the fifth, then the same government, you're telling the same government now order by partisan talks.
Reduce the price of
hunger. Why don't you reduce the price of hunger yourself? You don't believe in the government.
Now there's no government. Yeah.
You see, one of the things that William Ruto, in my view, need to address, if he's truly honest about governing this country to prosperity, he must stop the culture of impunity, which is what defines Raila Odinga and his supporters. Because it's that culture of impunity mutadu. I even declare a holiday. Yeah, it's against the law.
Yeah, it's the Baba
it's against the law.
That impunity.
But we want to see a courageous government that says the risk you cannot do that. You do that, we'll come after you. Even if it means putting you under house arrest, we'll put you under house arrest. And that's the only way people can have respect in government and say, hey, mzee ukivunja sheria hapa. Yeah. Manake saizi Mwesh, if I have a Maimulika Mwizi in the streets of Nairobi and somebody takes it to me violently, do you know the crime I face is robbery with violence?
Yeah.
And the sentence, you hang by the neck until you die. Kumunyanganya tu mtu Mulika Mwizi. Hata maybe you cause some damage, umpige kidogo, you have violently taken that property called Mulika Mwizi, which is under, I think, 1,000 bob.
Robbery violence.
But now, somebody organizes violence that even causes deaths, economic sabotage, and is still walking free on the streets.
No,
people ask, do we have a government?
No, on this one, I call and I have called the president and told him, arrest this man, send for his arrest. Let the government deal with this guy. I mean,
Kenya will not stop if one person is punished because of the chaos it causes. Kenya will still remain Kenya.
Let me move on. I mean, but you know, also, we have permeated this thing. We've been so permissive in the past. Because if you think about it, even as a society, you know, in 1982, Baba was involved in a coup, and we all know that. All of us. All his followers. We know in 1882 he was involved, and you know what happened, and those are acts. But we have permeated as a society that even we don't see. If it's someone who, in the village, I remember there's a guy who had been convicted for, you know, he was just in jail for, I don't know what he had done. He had beaten someone and then he was in jail. And I remember when he came back from thicker prisons, you know, everybody in society, he actually became a misfit. Everybody's afraid of him. People don't talk to him. Even now, there's stigma around him. But there's no stigma around Baba and all the things that we do. We still, even the media glorifies this. If you look, I watched Maandamano on some week, and I saw a certain TV station, which is has a serious view in this country. And I watched Citizen TV. The entire day suspended everything that they were doing. So they will show you this is Maandamano here. They would go to, you know, Nairobi, Busia, Siaya, you know, I don't know. You know, even by just, there's something you just said that by talking about those religious things that we are glorifying them, just by the fact that we are doing that. We have seen the permissiveness increase such that we praise it. We use a whole day showing those things, you know. And we do not show. There are people who are doing very serious economic activities on that same day in another county, launching serious projects. Farmers doing their own business.
Well, I won't have a problem with media freedom. In fact, the government should use the opportunity of the media, especially people like Citizen, Because what Citizen actually is doing is it's actually giving you evidence of that violence. Now, it's the executive that's sleeping on the job. Instead of using such clips, such shows that demonstrate how this violence is being organized by the leadership of these Azimio, I will allow the media. I will allow the media to actually broadcast because we can use that to actually investigate the commission of criminality. Okay?
All right.
And by the way, Bitok, there's something I don't know whether it will be out of context. Back to these pronouncements by Deputy President that money was lost and all that. Under Article 35 of the Constitution, should be the right to information. Because if somebody is holding, a state organ or whatever is holding information that really affects my right, we have got every right to know. And for me, I think as Kenyans, we really must know where this money went. Anyway, it's just a by the way.
All right, 47 minutes. 7 minutes past 9 a.m. 70 minutes post time. All right, I would like to take in your tackles of the day. Also in the comment section, Haleki, unfortunately, due to continuous treachery by KK, administration Raila will gain back relevance. Even Kenyans will forgive him for the 5 years it misgoverned Kenya alongside Uhuru Kenyatta. We'll forget he was in the handshake admin. Why is KK admin busy implementing things that weren't in the plan manifesto? SOCAS was not in the plan. 50 CSs were not in the plan. Neither was wired officers like Prime Minister Cabinet. We had offices like Prime Minister, Cabinet Secretary. If government chief economic advisor has no faith in this government, why should I? Hey, good to see you, Sir Kabun. Erickson Diambo. They talk ask the MP Kagombe if you can introduce the Grekla and TGRC report in Parliament for debate. The TGRC report in Parliament for debate of the implementation. TGRC. Fairness, good conversation right there. Thank you. And if you're going to be honest on bipartisan issues, KK wasn't honest from the start. The talks were deliberately intended to fail by Kenya Kwanza. They were just buying time to kill off momentum and that was building by Azimio protests. I do not support Azimio. Did not vote for Raila. I voted for Ruta, but I support Maandamano because it seems that the government, that's the only language this government understands and responds to. Unga has slightly gone down, so as gas that was achieved via Maandamano. Since Parliament is functionless, Parliament is dead, captured, and government is further trying to capture parliamentarians more by having the Kanini Kega faction taking over Jubilee. Okay? All right, Yasmin, Lady Yasmin, good morning, good conversation. All right, guys, gentlemen, let's have our tackles of the day. Mheshimiwa, tackles of the day is your hit of the day. It's your punch of the day.
Oh, yeah. So, I agree. I would want to say that this country is in the dogs. And we really must have a candid conversation. And my greater concern right now is the energy cost. Because we have last year, when we, by December last year, we ran a deficit in balance of payment amounting to about $1.34 billion. This is not sustainable. Because the amount of buying that we are doing from outside the country is not sustainable. We have become a net consumer as a country. The only way to fix this is to fix agriculture so that we have raw materials for production and fix the cost of power, and also just remove the whole system and the bureaucracies around doing business in the country. The registration, the processes and all those things. And we are doing that. I also recommend that we move the BRS, the Business Registration Services, from where it is anchored under the Attorney General to the Ministry of Trade, so that we're able to facilitate business and so that we're able to industrialize as a country. There isn't any other way, because as a service industry, the service industry will not be sufficient for this country to run and pay its and employ its youth and the working class. So I am working hard with my fellow members of parliament to make sure that we get a solution to energy, so that therefore we will get investors coming to this country and create industrialization and therefore jobs.
Okay. All right. Dr.
I think for me, I'll go back to really the state of the nation and urge government that, when a country is in a crisis, and I think for me the crisis that we are facing right now is that of the economy, it is important that the government makes some quick decisions to at least lessen the pain that Kenyans are going through. Like I say now, Kenyans are asking for very, very basic, including somebody will call you and tell you, please come on a bonga points, send me bonga points, and I can convert them into buying unga for the kid. So there's an economic situation present in the country that really requires the government to be seen to be doing something. Not to be promising. Mheshimiwa, I know, has defended the government by saying that they're doing something in terms of legislation. It's fair enough. But I think when at a time of a crisis or disaster, you must be seen to be doing something that actually lessens that. Even if it means actually temporarily, even maybe for a few months, putting the question of subsidies or some austerity measures. In my view, I don't see any austerity measures in government today. And austerity measures have always been used by many, many governments, many states in the world to address situations temporarily. Because if you are to prioritize today what the government is doing, as William Ruto, as president, I wouldn't be wanting to be launching things like affordable housing because that's not a priority for Kenyans right now. What is priority for Kenyans actually right now is to put food on the table. And I think government should be careful not to be seen to be doing certain things that actually do not relate to people's immediate challenges and problems. I would rather this government apply some austerity measures in all its departments. I wouldn't have employed 53 CASs. I was expecting some serious lamentation in Bunge, protest, saying, no, we don't need this. So I just feel that the government is not prioritizing on the issues. And that's why you can see Raila is gaining currency in organizing for this because people are desperate. People, and Raila chooses exactly where he wants to go. He goes to places where people are actually angry at government. They're not doing anything.
Hungry and angry.
Angry and angry, everything. All those, they are desperate. So they have nothing to lose. That's why guys are saying, no, we miss maandamano. Because there's joblessness, a lot of joblessness. I think now we are at 70% maybe jobless. So what do you expect those people to do? If you have nothing to do,
nothing else to do,
and you become desperate, and for me, I say, you will become shakahola.
Someone has given up.
Yeah, somebody has given up on the. Because the struggle is real, the pain is real. So sometimes you say, wacha nijiondoe so that this day I don't have to continue suffering. And I think government needs to really realize that, because remember, Mweshe, your campaign were very, very crystal clear. Hii serikali ni ya Asla Nation, boda, Mama Mboga. So there is that huge expectation. And if it is about Mama Mboga, boda guys, and the Asla Nation, then do something that relates to those people, because they are hustling, because they are about Mboga. It's about that boda guy charging you 100 bob. So 100 bob means a lot to them. They have to put food on the table. And I think for me, I'm not seeing enough from government to that extent, even though the plans may be there.
Okay. I think maybe we need to be taken back and say to give you time. Fair enough. Fine. Give you time. I think Ekuru has been an advocate of let's give them time. But also, time also comes with responsibility. You need to start attaching and seeing the plan.
Even time has time.
Time has time.
Even at some point, time must come.
Time must come. So you have to see from the plan this has been knocked off from the plan, because this is a government that was voted in on a manifesto, a plan. We need to start knocking it off. So very soon tutaanza sasa kufanya
audit. And Bitok, we have to keep insisting. William Ruto and many of his cabinet ministers are not new in government, so they cannot keep on saying, give us time. They have been there, they know where the problem is, they know where the shoe pinches Kenyans, so fix it please. The more you start saying again, and you remember, for almost 6 months, we refuse to say, no, we will not criticize this government. Let's give it time. So walisema wako na time. Tulikuwa tunawatch it tu, tunaangalia tu, hiyo 100 days imefika, I am 6 months. Gachagua anasema our buttocks are ready for flogging. Tunaangalia tu.
but I'll still tell you, government is not something you just move. It's very hard to change things in government because and these things were made by none other than Dr. here, and they made sure that we have which is also a good
Boss,
thing.
You know me, I'm not in government.
I'm saying in the making of the constitution, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
That the constitution makes some of these things, because we also don't want just in case you protected and ring-fence some of these things so that we do not have a mad person who comes and says also suddenly now I can just screw this country, So we say that we need some order and we need some structure to changing stuff. So for the same reason, even when you mean good, then it's not very easy. And you're the makers of the constitution. You sat in that committee, and it was a good thing. I commend you for it. But now, therefore, we must agree that we made our bed, and therefore we lie it.
But see, it's okay. Let's not hide always. There is no constitution in the world that is perfect. Yes, I participated in the writing of this constitution. And,
it's not about constitution.
I know.
I'm not complaining.
It's fairly progressive constitution compared to many countries in the world. But I think we are also when we are not able to fix certain things, we say, "Oh, constitution is making it so difficult." No. What about presidential fiat? Which executive order? We have. By
the way, you'll take us back to this conversation because we are coming from a position where, for example, Article 234 has been misused, and you know that completely. But you see, the makers of the constitution, even when we passed the constitution, did not envisage a situation where someone is just going to perpetually misuse a certain provision of the constitution, So we also do not want, what directives the previous government gave, and I don't want to come from there. So we have
so undo them.
Yes, but you see also we do not want
that. Doesn't require constitutional amendment.
One of the ways of undoing them is stopping using those presidential directives because they're not good for the country.
Okay.
We cannot have every government coming and making directives that are not within the, because that's
they have continued some of the bad manners of the previous administration. Like, for example, chief administrative secretaries are not in the constitution. Yes, an office can be created in Mwesh, but there's a process for now you create it. Now
we'll come back to that. Seems you guys still have something to match.
We are creating efficiency.
I think we still have something to
and these people are young. We are creating employment. We are reducing the 70% that you're talking about.
Bitok, it just slipped my mind. Actually, my tackle of the day when I meet Mweshi, a younger man than me, I pray that these younger parliamentarians take a different trajectory in the representation of this country. And
that's what I tell them.
And to stop being chaperoned by this thing of my party. I wish they could the younger parliamentarians could really focus on building a leadership that even will make one of them in the future president. Because that's the inspiration a majority of our youth do. Because if you look at the control of even young parliamentarians, this party thing, my leader, these leaders come and go, boss. So I am really hoping that the younger parliamentarians will wake up.
I tell most of them.
We have to the task.
We have
to the task.
But I mean, somehow when you look at it relatively, they are doing better in the terms of quality of conversations and quality of discourse and how. And I mean, convention generally. I've interviewed a number of them, young members.
We need to reduce that parliament so that we can begin to see the quality of conversation. Because right now it's so difficult.
It's a whole school.
So at least give them their dues. They're trying. I listen to them somehow, and I think the longest time you could not.
And you should host as many of them.
Most of the MPs for a long time you could not hear maybe an MP who comes from government also tasking government to take responsibility of citizens and government.
Like this is the first time I'm meeting Gigi Kagombe. If I met him on the street there I would not know he's a member of private. That is why you want to go. Let me tell you a story. I know we're exceeding our time. One day we were seated in a social place. I think it was 2013. So then there was this fellow seated next there. And I think he had expectation that we will go to him, say hello to him. Okay, he was drinking some fermented waters by glass.
How good out of 10?
I think like maybe after 3 glasses of that fermented berries, he walked over to us and told us, "Kwani nyinyi mnijui? Hamjaniona? oh, me, I looked at him. I said, okay, I'm so sorry. I didn't recognize you because you parliamentary told me. People worship this title so much, but then now when we tell you, but we expect of you to help us with certain things that make our life. But guys are so crazy about recognition. Eh?
No, it's just a job. It's just a job like any other.
Yeah.
I mean, I have, previously I've come from other places where I've held positions. So I mean, for me,
you're not phased.
No, I've seen it all, man. I've seen it all.
And maybe these are the people that dwell in parliament.
Actually, I tell you, and power is so transitive. It's so transient. Eh?
Yeah, it was. When I saw
let me give you my example. In 2014, I went to celebrate one of these national days at Nyayo Stadium. And then, now I was amongst some friends of mine who are members of parliament, and we were sitting at the dais. Then I looked back, I was looking for someone, and then I saw Deaths.What, Nicholas.
Gentleman.
Keep your door. Deaths.What, sitting in the sun. Then I said, man, this thing is so... This is the guy, when I was a small boy, this is the guy who was feared by everybody.
You couldn't even mention his name.
Now, by then I just said, no, this guy, he's now old, frail and everything. So I actually just, there will be seats reserved for members of parliament. I was not even a member of parliament then, but I was amongst friends who are members of parliament. I said, there must be one of these seats that will not be occupied. Just went, picked the guy, told him to come. When I looked at his face, when I approached him, he's frail, he's feeling so, he has no confidence. He doesn't know these people. He doesn't know if I'm just one of the guys whose father he had messed up with. So I could just see when I walked to him, when I said hi, he was so uncertain. And then that's when I realized, this power is so transient. Just be nice and imagine and just live life, man.
But Moshe, I will tell you something about that Mzee. I spent quite some time with him, and I've had a couple of lunches with him. Let me tell you, that Mzee was one of the most brilliant minds in Kenya. He may not have been eloquent in terms of his communication, but Deaths.What was very sharp, well-read, well-traveled. I mean, you can discuss any subject under the sun with Deaths.What. I was shocked. A couple of times he will call and you say, let's do lunch. We'll sit at Serena Pool there, and we'll talk about it. He'll tell you about Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, economy. I was astounded. I said, this person, if you don't interact with them, you form an opinion about them. But actually, I had occasion to interact with him. Especially, he was very keen on the question of land when we were doing the constitution. And that's how we interacted. So I'm asking him, but Mwesh, why are you so pained by this chapter 5, land and environment? of course, he was one of the greatest landowners.
He was a beneficiary of a lot of
but he will discuss. I was just surprised. Actually, it was very brilliant.
I never got to have a discourse with him because that was just in the public arena. But I didn't get to meet him.
So politics ruins good men.
It does actually, and you see, and I also wonder why sometimes good men, when they get into politics, they actually don't even carry with them a level of their professional training and apply it. And that's why I get disappointed. There are some friends, I know, but when you hear them talk, sometimes I feel ashamed that we even share a profession. Because I wouldn't compromise myself to that extent that, I forget that I'm a trained lawyer. There are certain things I have to do as an educated person. Until now, politics begins to dictate who I am. I speak badly in front. You are a parent. You speak, you abuse other people, another adult with children. And then the dishonesty. You meet these people in social places, they are so happy. You hear them say, hey, we can need to chap and go next.
I don't know who your friends are. I don't know who your friends are.
I have many.
But I'm glad you said, you made a disclaimer that I'm not, you don't even know me. So I am certainly not talking about.
I met you for the first time today, and I think you're a pleasant.
Right, but also I think citizens are very naive to imagine that politicians don't talk. Imagine that they have to. I think citizens are very naive to imagine.
But that's what I was telling you.
We don't talk to members of the opposition. We are in opposition. We oppose each other, and that's how it is.
But you're friends.
No, we are not friends. We represent the people, and we take very, very and candid lives.
But then again, how are you asking for the number?
No.
How are you asking for the number you couldn't get? For the number of opposition that you couldn't get.
No, I have to correct you there. you have to be friends.
That was on the light note.
But it doesn't mean you cannot differ.
Yeah.
You have to differ, but on issues that are of common good to society.
I'll tell you, for example, when you sit in, like now I sit in the Public Accounts Committee, which committee is headed by the opposition, by the minority side. But when you're doing committee work, you really have to forget all your party issues and just deal with work that has come to you. I mean, our peers will not come and I'll be lenient with him because it comes from the Kenya Kwanza government. I mean, I have a responsibility at that place, and at that place, in that room, when you're in the committee room, we are all members of parliament. It doesn't matter where you came from. So
thank you so much. It's 7 minutes. 7 minutes.
Ni Friday.
Adomlia shika.
Unajua sikiza, unajua economy ni mbaya, lakini there is one person here who
can make things
surely must get a check.
Can make things hapa wada tumwatili. Not be left. Hata kama ni Friday.
Mapema ndio best.
tujalipo bwana.
Mbona mjana
kula mileage. Nataka kukula mileage.
na mileage.
Hakuna mileage.
Hata tukufunga hapa. Tutakufungia hapa.
You guys don't even. You know, by the mileage is a thing for some privileged members of parliament who come from far-fledged areas like his place and your place. As guys around here who deal with the story. Whatever you have, it's good for people to know that we do not earn mileage. Members who come from what we call the metropolis. Guys from Nakuru, Nyandarua, Murang'a, Machakos, Kajiado, they don't.
Unajua Fuliza?
Fuliza niko na kidogo, lakini niko maximum.
Hiyo ndio tutafuliza leo. Kama mbaya. Alright. Yes, the Sheria Wiki edition of the 28th of April 2023, and we've been having Mheshimiwa Gigi Kagombe, member of parliament, Gatundu South, the member of parliament wa rais aliyekuwa rais Daktari Ekuru Aukot is a party leader Third Way Alliance, and we've been a conversation, of course, on every Friday. We try to give everything some level of legal and reference and legal taste. Kama wewe pia ni mkulima, Mheshimiwa, unalimanga? Unafuga ng'ombe ama unafuga kuku?
Majani, ng'ombe, kuku.
Kama ni mkulima kama Mheshimiwa Kagombe, hakikisha kama unapata chakula ya mifugo yako kutoka Fugo Feeds by Unga Farm Care East Africa Limited. Hakikisha kama that you get your feeds, animal feeds from Fugo Feeds by Unga Farm Care East Africa Limited. If you're doing chicken, kama unafanya kuku wala wanyama, kuna kuku ama chicken growers, so that you can get your feeds for your growers. It gives you maximum market benefit. Ukiweka kuku kwa ratili inaruka kwa sababu kuku imekula vizuri, iko na afya na haijadungiwa antibiotics. Ni chakula imekula safi. The digital balance in Fugo Feeds ensures that you get the best production from your animals, and also it's aflatoxin free, though it means that your animals are safe. History of feed poisoning does not happen to your animals. Kama unafanya layers, kuku wa kutaga mayai, then you can get Fugo layers. It gives you best quality eggs and also more production from your chicken and also health. Usiende unapata na kuku bana manyoya zimeisha, inakaa kama ilipigwa jana. You're also doing pig farming, so you can get Fugo pigs. Mambo ya kuacha nguruwe anatangatanga akiokota takataka tuache kuanzia leo. Nguruwe anafaa kae mahali mzuri, anaoshwa, anapata shower na anakula chakula ya Fugo. Anakaa safi zaidi. If you're doing dairy, ensure you can get your Fugo dairy by Unga Farm Care East Africa Limited. This is what it does. Ensure that your cows are healthy and also gives you maximum milking benefit. Kama ni ng'ombe 5 ama 10 liters, ng'ombe anapata 20 liters. Napata unakamua mpaka unachoka mikono. Anua machine.
We will spare your sitting allowance because Gerald Bitok kuna some advertisement hapo.
Unajua chakula ya ng'ombe, labda tukule chakula ya ng'ombe. Sio chakula ya kuku iko.
Hiyo leo mpigia debe hivyo. Haikuji bure.
Mtu wake chakula ya kuku.
Kuna check.
I might be safe now.
I think at this rate.
Hapa Fugo Feeds tunasema malezi bora, mapato zaidi. Lakini chakula ya ng'ombe iko na ya kuku iko. Kama unataka tukule, niko tayari tutakula saa hii.
Lakini
ya mfugo ndio hakuna. Kuku hakuna, tunategemea Mheshimiwa.
Mheshimiwa kinaanza wewe.
Until Monday on the Common Sense edition. This is the tackle and it ends now. Bye bye and take care.